Speedway. Oh, and then there's that whole championship thing. At no point in NASCAR history, chase or not, have the points ever been this close with just 3 to go. So when you talk about big, I'll take your football stadium and your cowboy hats and your wild asphalt circus, and I will raise you the Sprint Cup Series championship.
The tightest battle in Sprint Cup Series history is about to two-step into the Texas Motor Speedway.
Every great script has a formula. This one, it's a blockbuster. You got heroes.
Let's go out there and start kicking some ass.
Villains.
I ain't taking shit at 0.
And devoted love.
Yeah, come on, baby.
You got spoilers.
Never give up.
Dark horses.
Come on now.
We're still in this thing, guys.
And high-speed car chases.
Great fight today. Keep your heads up. Let's keep digging now.
Predictable
New leader, 48.
is a flop. Unpredictable is a box office smash.
Yeah, you did it. That's right, champ. Get him.
Only 36 points separate the top 5 drivers, with Kenseth and Johnson tied for the lead. And in the next 500 miles, anything can happen.
We are in DB blue. Stay on the racetrack if you can. Stay on the racetrack if you can. Too late.
So fire up the band and get ready for an old-fashioned hootenanny.
Game on from this point on. 3 races, live and die by.
It's time for an action-packed thrill ride that would make Spielberg sit back and smile.
Texas Motor Speedway does it right. It is a circus and a race all rolled into one, and it's a big challenge. The final 500-mile race of the season. Now, last week, we had a 500-lapper at Martinsville, and Jeff Gordon did what he could to reinsert himself into the championship conversation. He is now third in points, 27 back from the top 2 drivers who are tied. It's Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth. After 7 chase races, not a single point separates the top 2 in the championship. Never in chase history have the points been deadlocked with 3 to go. Never in the modern history. Back at Texas Motor Speedway, the 8th stop in this chase for the Sprint Cup. As we get ready to get this afternoon rolling, final thoughts from inside the Quicken Loans ESPN pit studio. Sir, you are up first.
Well, for me, this has got to be a no-mistake day for this 20 and 48. They both know it. The thing I'm worried about, though, this last 100 miles of this race, it's going to be fast. I'm scared of those motors. Those motors could blow up in one of those cars, taken right out of this chase. I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, which team manages their team best today? 48-20. We're looking at those tires. We've said it 3 times today. Keep an eye on tire wear.
That milkshake's gone already, isn't it?
It's really good.
Yep.
I'm going to keep an eye on the crooks. There's some thieves in the race today.
Yep.
The 2 and the 11 are going to be trying to steal those bonus points from our chasers. Watch out for that 11 car today.
Let's turn things over to 3 gentlemen who clearly have it more together than we do down here in the pit studio. Bestwick, Dale Jarrett, and Andy Petrie. Where are your milkshakes, though? Come on.
Wait, they haven't shown up yet. But before you go, Nicole mentioned this is her last race. Nicole starts her maternity leave after today, and we're not sending you away without publicly giving you all the best wishes and love from your ESPN
maternity?
Thank you.
You're pregnant?
Oh, you're going to make me all teary over here. Thank you, guys.
Hide that
I
forward.
thought you drank too many milkshakes. 3,200
I am going to drink this one.
I'm thinking over in that snack bucket. I thought you were eating too much. I'm sorry.
Our best wishes to you and Ryan and baby Briscoe, and we look forward to seeing you back real soon.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about the race. My Hall of Fame-bound partner here said this could be one of the greatest championships ever. Why?
Well, I know a lot of people talk about these drivers' points racing in the chase. They are trying to get maximum points, and that's what's going to make this so great.
Yeah, the only way that they can really get a leg up on each other is win. That's what it's come down to.
So a great race as part of a great chase between 2 great drivers and great race teams. Sounds like a recipe for a great day. Got to be at least as good as that shake. First, before we get the engines fired, we go trackside for today's pre-race ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise and remove your hats as the Shepherd Air Force Base Honor Guard presents our nation's colors. Please join the Boy Scouts as they lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing as Dr. Roger Marsh from Texas Alliance Raceway Ministries offers our invocation.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here at the Great American Speedway today, we want to pause and remember Marcy Scott. And Father, we pray that you'll be with all of her friends and family and loved ones there at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Ask you to watch over and comfort each and every one of them. And now, Father, as we turn our attention to today's event, we thank you for the excitement of racing. We thank you for the freedom to be able to gather here today. We ask you to watch over our troops around the world. We pray, Lord, that you would give us a great, enjoyable, safe race. All this I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
And here to perform our national anthem, please welcome the Horned Frog Marching Band, the pride of TCU.
Well, the lady's being fired from the cannon. That's all wrapped up. The wrestling in the garage area, that's all wrapped up. Now we'll see if there's any wrestling in the other garage area after this 500-mile race is over as the drivers get buckled in and ready to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. This racetrack has shown itself to provide a lot of great racing in recent years, much like the races earlier this season at the track in Southern California and the track in Atlanta on Labor Day weekend. We're expecting cars to be all over this pavement today.
Yeah, you're just trying to find some grip somewhere, and a lot of the drivers will compare it to those surfaces. This track is worn out a lot. It's got a lot of bumps in it, characters these drivers like to call it. But what it does is provide great racing for us to watch, because as these drivers search around, there's going to be a lot of passing going on, and the exits of both of these corners of 2 and 4 make it where you have to get yourself back in line and give the other guy a little room.
Yeah, these big, fast racetracks with the worn-out pavement do produce some of the absolute best racing we've ever seen, but it does come with one little thing. It comes with high tire wear, and that's one of the things I think we're going to have to watch out for. It can add a lot to the race as far as strategy, but there might be an issue today. These tires are wearing out just about a fuel run, and the teams are going to have to manage that as we go through the race.
Big concern, particularly for those who are in contention for the championship. Now, if your favorite driver is leading, when it comes time to make the last pit stop in today's race, sorry, the numbers this year on these mile-and-a-half tracks say he's not going to win.
Now, I have been favored for the guy that's really had the upper hand leading up to that last run, and we've seen only 2 times out of the last 9 races that's happened where a guy could take that and actually win. So it's really important for the crew chief to make the right call at the right time, and then it's up to the driver to get it done.
Yeah, and very easily happen again here today, so stay around, watch the end of this, because it's going to get exciting. This racetrack is going to cool down as they go into the evening hours of this. It's going to change a lot, and the other thing that could change is that lead position before this is over, possibly even on the last lap.
Tie for the championship. We'll see who wins the race and who comes out of here with the point lead. It's 500 miles ahead from the Texas Motor Speedway, and the command to start engines is coming up.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Silver Star Ultra Headlights from Sylvania, Chevrolet, find new roads, and Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil brand, Mobil 1. All right.
The live scene at Texas Motor Speedway on a beautiful fall afternoon as race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup is about to get underway. 500 miles around this very fast, very tricky racetrack that's given a lot of drivers fits over the years. We'll see who comes out on top of this one at the end of the afternoon and into the evening. Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson tied for the championship lead. Carl Edwards starting on pole. A Ford 1-2 on the front row after qualifying yesterday, on Friday rather. Both Carl and Brad Keselowski taking the top 2 spots in qualifying. And as far as who has the upper hand on this mile-and-a-half track, well, the stats from earlier this year on this type of track say nobody.
No, it's really, they're so evenly matched. It's just going to be a matter of who hits it right when we get towards the end of this race after that last pit stop.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before Jimmy Johnson winds up in victory lane at a mile-and-a-half.
How will this race play into the story of who takes home that championship trophy in just a couple of weeks in South Florida? We find out starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to give the command to start engines for today's race, Administrator of National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, David Strickland.
On behalf of the 55,000 employees of the U.S. Department of Transportation, drivers, buckled up and ready to chase. Start your engines!
The 3650 behind the pace car.
Ready to go at Texas Motor Speedway for the AAA Texas 500. Our ESPN in-race reporter for this race is the man who took home the championship a year ago. Michigan's Brad Keselowski had a terrific fight for the win in this race with his rival Jimmy Johnson last year. Johnson won the race, but Keselowski won the chase. Now Brad looking to take home that Texas Winners Trophy today. We'll talk with him on the pace laps next.
ESPN salutes Goodyear, the tire chosen by fans to get them to the race.
Mostly sunny skies, 66 degrees the conditions for race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, 500 miles at the Great American Speedway, the Texas Motor Speedway, where Brad Keselowski starts on the front row, last year's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion who scored a couple of wins en route to the title during the chase. Now looking to take home a trophy that he missed by 1 spot in this race a year ago. Jimmy Johnson edged Brad in what was a terrific fight to the finish. Brad, our ESPN in-race reporter on the day.
Hey, Brad, Dale Jarrett. Good for a couple of questions?
Sure.
All right, man. Now, Brad, our mailbag question comes from your home state of Michigan, and Trevor in Gaines, Michigan asked, you had an outstanding few weeks ago at Charlotte, and you won and dominated the race yesterday. How will that help you today? Hey, Brad, Dale Judge, you have me?
There's a lot to be said for confidence in this sport.
All right, Brad, you told me, speaking of confidence, you told me yesterday that your truck was really good Friday. Your car yesterday was outstanding, and you dominated that race. And then today's car was the best of all of these. Knowing that you have 500 long miles, how do you temper that and wait to the right time to make your moves here today?
It's really difficult to stay patient when you have a fast car. You know, you feel like everything that goes wrong is, you know, out to get you in a way, but you just have to be strong mentally, and you have to fight through it. And hopefully we can have a no-mistake day where we never get behind. Obviously, we have the speed in the car to get up front, but I can't make any mistakes. The crew can't make any mistakes, and that's really easy to do here at Texas, especially with the way the sun sets here off the corner. You can't really see the wall, so it's easy to put it in the fence.
Hey, Brad, I know you, as the champion, want to be part of the chase this year. You're not, but does it give you some extra satisfaction, like in Charlotte, to go out here and take points away from these chase contenders on races like this?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I want to win every race, whether it's, you know, the race for the championship or just a race because they're having one on that day. And I think we've got a shot at it, like I said, today. And my team, this is a great team. Even though we're not in the chase, this is a really great team, but we've got something to prove every weekend.
All right. Thanks for talking with us. You have a great race. We'll look forward to talking with you later on now, Ian.
Yeah, along the same lines as Dale was talking to Brad about motivation. You guys had a ton to be motivated here last year about being part of that chase and winning it. This year, not a part of the chase, but what's keeping your guys motivated to be racing at the high level that you're racing at right now?
We all love to win races, Andy, and you know, obviously obviously it's disappointing we didn't make the chase, but promise you one thing, we're working just as hard now as we were during the chase, and I think we showed that here a few weeks back in Charlotte. So long day today. We'll have to make good calls down here on pit road, have a solid day down here, and try to keep the Miller Lite Ford up front.
Yeah, Paul, your hard work really is showing up, and practice looked good yesterday. Looks like you'll have a good one today. Good luck. Thanks for talking to us.
No problem. Thanks, Andy.
Also working hard down on the pit lane today, besides Paul Wolf and his team, our team, including Dr. Jerry Punch. Hi, Doc.
Hey, hi, Alan. How are you, buddy? You know, you don't win 5 Sprint Cup championships without meticulous planning, preparation, and execution. But sometimes, with that said, there's things you just can't avoid. For example, today, Chad Knaus knows that tire wear could be excessive. He also knows that these 200-mile-per-hour straightaway speeds and sustained RPMs over 500 miles can take its toll on even the best engines like his today. He knows if either one of those problems hit him in the 48 team,
tire and hit the wall. Now the good news is they figured out what they need to do to improve the car for today. The bad news, they're ultra concerned. Disaster. Mike Massaro?
Sitting 36 points behind the championship leaders, Kyle Busch is realistic. He says the best they can do is win the final 3 races and see where the points fall. If they do that, he says, they will have done their job. In the spring, Busch certainly did his job, scoring the victory. Today, Kyle is looking to complete the Texas sweep and keep his championship hopes alive. Dave Burns.
Here's a challenge for 3-time Texas winner Carl Edwards. He was fastest in qualifying on Friday, but yesterday his crew chief told me they didn't feel they had the same advantage over the field.
Scheduled for 5, our Ford EcoBoost camera. Danica Patrick with our GoDaddy on board. Clint Boyer, the 5-hour energy camera. Greg Biffle, the Coke on board. Kyle Busch, the Toyota on board. Matt Kenseth, the Fresh from Florida camera. Jeff Gordon, the Sprint on board. Ryan Newman, the Outback on board. And Jimmy Johnson has our Chevy on board. So those are the views. And here's the start. Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski on the front row. We're green at Texas. Edwards, Johnson, first and second. Keselowski still fighting in that outside lane with Kyle Busch to his inside. Two-car slides from second back to 5th. Here's the race for 7th. 17, Ricky Stenhouse. 27, Paul Menard.
Yeah, but these young men like this racetrack a lot. Expect to see good things from them throughout this day into the evening.
First couple laps, I know it's early, just first couple laps, but any indication that outside lane doesn't quite have the speed in it right now.
But not yet, and I think a lot of that has to do with fresher tires. You can run hard down on the bottom. You have enough grip there. It's going to be after they run 7, 8, 10 laps that you will start seeing them move up some. And I think Brad Keselowski was just kind of testing that. He wanted to take that opportunity, being in that position, to see what he might do later on fresh tires.
The cars are incredibly fast these first few laps. 28 flats, the fastest lap by Carl Edwards. And that's just not really conducive to seeing that second lane come in. I do believe we're going to see it definitely come by midway or even sooner.
Oh, yeah, we're going to see, middle and the very top of this throughout the entire evening, but it'll just take a little bit of time once these tires start falling off, which they have seen in practice they do very quickly.
And just perspective on those numbers, Andy, that 28 flat is 192 mile-an-hour average speed.
Yeah, that's actually surprising that they're that fast. They weren't even that fast in practice in happy hour, but the track's a little cooler. We got a little overcast right now, so it has a lot of grip.
You have to be careful as a driver, though, with all of that grip and everything you got going right. You've already pointed out that there is the potential of tire issues with the amount of wear that they're seeing. All of that grip. If you're running that kind of speed, that just means that you're abusing the tires a little bit more. You're going to go that fast right now. You're going to have a bigger fall off in the end of a run.
thing is, too, they cleaned this racetrack before the event with the jet blowers. They've blown it off, all the dust and all the
seat into this race.
There he is, and well, there should be. But the one thing I will say, he needs a better race this weekend, if that's possible, to keep himself in the championship mix. The one thing that he absolutely has to do here before this evening is over, and that's finish ahead of the 48 and 20. Now, I'm not saying he has to win, but he has to be ahead of them. He's going to have any chance in the last two.
And, of course, Jimmy Johnson, 48, and Matt Kenseth, 20. Tied for the lead in the championship starting the day. Matt holding the tiebreaker by having more wins. And with a championship that close, those bonus points for leading a lap and leading the most laps in the race become even more critical. You heard Jimmy Johnson say during NASCAR Countdown that it was point for point between he and Matt Kenseth for the rest of the season, the way he was approaching it. So how hard will these guys press again?
I'm with you, Alan. I think it does come with like a double-edged sword, because they don't want to have a problem. That's what can take them out of this championship, is some kind of a tire.
So Jimmy Johnson. First caution out at Texas. Debris in turn 2 reported up high near the wall. Car gathers up the front runners and the pit crews get ready. We remind you that you can check out NASCAR.com/racebuddy. 15 laps in.
Yeah, pretty sure he wanted to about that time.
Quickly, Doc.
Chad Canals just called him in, and Jimmy said, we're tick free on entry, snug in the center, but really good up-off. Tires are really critical here. Right side tires going on. They want to make sure they get it nice and full of fuel, and they have called for a 4-tire change. Left front, left rear, lug nuts. Jimmy Johnson taking 4. Jamie.
Jason Ratcliffe has a lot of adjustability built into the 20 car. That's just what they want to do. The car is too tight. 4-tire stop. They filled him up with Sunoco fuel. Mike.
Kyle Busch very descriptive of what his
tires in qualifying. The 15 laps of green flag racing, it's a little soon to make the prediction that, gee, you know, everything's good, but
no, you can look at that though, and they'll measure this where you see how they're getting the loose rubber off of the tires with that little torch and scraper. They'll look and see how much wear they had in those 15 laps, and they can kind of project it forward and see where they would be at the end of their fuel run. I expect, too, if we have a green run, that we'll see guys short pitting. They won't run it till it runs out of gas. They'll get those tires off as quick as they can.
Now, interesting here, Michael McDowell did not pit in the 98 car, so he is the leader of the race. So instead of Jimmy Johnson being alongside Carl Edwards on the front row, McDowell, as the leader, has chosen the outside lane. That puts Johnson now third behind Edwards and shuffles Dale Jr. to the outside lane, Matt Kenseth to the outside lane, and so on.
You almost have to question that call for McDowell. He's going to be in a hornet's nest here on this restart.
Update from pit road, Doc.
You talked about morning to look at tires. I know it's only been 15 laps, but, you know, back when they were testing here a couple weeks ago, Matt Kenseth had a tire at 9 laps, you know, have an issue, and he went into the wall. And what they were looking at, primarily the inside shoulder here. This is the right front off Jimmy Johnson's car. Tire wear looks really, really good. No graining, no separation. I realize only 15 laps, but they're really very pleased with what they've seen here, and a good chance for them to get in here and take a look at the right front tire here early on of the 5-time champ.
And while we were getting that report from Doc, you see the picture has changed at the front of the field. Michael McDowell has pulled over and dropped to the back of the line. So that puts Carl Edwards as the control car and just moves everybody up in the outside lane. So now Junior is on the outside of the front row for the restart. Kevin Harvick. Wow. Making up spots in the big run for Ryan Newman in the 39 also.
Good time here early in the race just to test that in case you find yourself in that position later on today to see what kind of grip is there now. You know it's only going to get better as we get into the nighttime.
Whoa, hang on. Marcus Ambrose with a little wiggle and wobble, but he gathered it back up. You're going so fast here, and when that car steps out like that, and a driver grabs that onto it, that's got to get your heart racing.
Yeah, I was kind of chuckling to myself as you said a little wiggle, only at 175 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But and it may just look, and it does look that way from here. But I tell you, inside the car, that's a huge moment for a driver. But the speeds are just incredible. Those seams that you see there, too, that kind of separate these lanes, have a big part in the way that these cars handle also. And you have to be careful there, especially on low air.
Took the green in 12th, and here he goes.
Well, he had been running that far outside lane right before the caution came out, so he knows what grip level is out there. A lot of these other cars had not ventured up there yet.
Yeah, you can see he actually, as he got about 3/4 of the way between turns 1 and 2, he had to come out of the throttle just a little bit. The car was kind of bouncing, moving around just to make sure that it was under him enough, but that was a great move.
Gave a little bit of the ground back, and now Harvick running in the 11th spot. Kevin starting the day 4th in the championship. Here's Matt Kenseth trying to chase Brad Keselowski for the 5th position. The 20 car. So solid and so spectacular on these mile-and-a-half tracks this season. Dale Jr. restarted 2nd. He's back in 4th.
Ran over a street rubber coming off of 2, right in the center of the car. Step forward, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, probably the only thing you worry about in that situation is did it do any damage to the front grille opening or any of that in the front of the car. The spring rubber is really not going to do much damage to the chassis of the car or underneath. Mike?
Yeah, and they're really not all that concerned, as you alluded to, about the spring rubber. What they are concerned about is the way the car is driving. I spoke with crew chief Steve Letarte this morning, and he said the car has just not reacted the way it reacted during the test a couple of weeks ago. And Dale Jr. just radioed in saying, quote, it's really hard to drive.
Maybe it was his spring rubber that he ran over.
Yeah. That changed the handling a little bit.
It may have fell out and came back around and hit it.
So Dale Jr. running 4th behind Carl Edwards. Edwards led the opening 9 laps. Jimmy Johnson passed him. Then Edwards got the lead back on a set of caution flag pit stops. About to hit the 50-mile mark here at Texas Motor Speedway. Race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. That fight for the lead shaping up again. Just like the first run of the race. Carl Edwards leading for a bit. Jimmy Johnson coming after him.
He's been up beside him a couple of times, and I noticed Jimmy took a little different tactic that time. He decided instead of just trying to drive under, he'd get on that rear bumper and loosen Carl up a little bit on the exit and then drive by him. Worked perfectly.
Looks like Carl might try the same tactic right here.
I'm betting he can't pull it off. Well, he's going to try that inside, which Jimmy tried to make work. So hard to do.
My golly, I believe he got him cleared. Nope. Came close.
Lap traffic ahead. And back to the lead, Jimmy Johnson.
You can see the 99 car he runs good for about 10, maybe 12 laps, and then the car starts really kicking.
Hey, you look back to about where we see Junior right now.
This is for 4th place here.
You can't escape the bumps. They're from the bottom to the top of this racetrack, and so it's a rough ride around here regardless where you decide to run.
It might be rough, but Matt toughed it out up to 4th place.
Yeah, I think it probably made it worse. It's looser in 2-3 numbers, loose into 3, 4 numbers tight everywhere else where it's going to turn. It's even really tight at the gas. I mean, it's loose real late, but just has a bunch of pushing it when you first throttle it. Check that nose, too. I tried to push 88 a little bit to get him going there, make sure it's okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of information in that little transmission, but I did see him push Junior on the restart and kind of got that grill right up against the bumper, and that's why I wanted to check it, make sure he didn't hurt it.
Yeah, and hearing a lot of loose comments, especially on the entry to the corner, and a lot of that has to do with making sure they're going to take care of the right front tire on these cars because of that excessive wear. If you have a car that you get too tight, we heard Matt even say his car was tight on the exit, but if you're tight all the way through the corner, you're going to abuse the right front, and the chances of having a problem are much greater that way.
Yeah, and these crew chiefs know that, and they're trying to defend against it. We heard some talking about that. Jason Radcliffe was one of them, saying that taking that car and trying to keep that balance where it will not overwork one tire or the other. So they're going to try to hedge their bet to take some of that off of the right front, and it is going to cause the driver to give some comments about it being loose, but I think you'd rather hear that than to have a tire problem.
And just a reminder, if you're not familiar with the terminology, tight is when the front end of the car doesn't grip as much. Loose is when the back end of the car doesn't grip as much. And the ideal car is when all four tires have equal grip and the driver's smiling big.
Yeah. And it makes it one thing that you have to do as a driver, if you've got that little bit of looseness on the entry, it's going to affect you more when the tires are fresh and you're going your fastest. That's whenever it's a bigger handful for you.
Good look at Jimmy Johnson Chevrolet from our aerial coverage today, provided by Goodyear. Everything we learned making tires that face the grueling demand.
Starting to lose entry stability and a little exit stability. My center turn is worse than yesterday. Kind of struggling all the way around here.
And the conditions that the crew chiefs are trying to adapt the car to are going to be changing throughout this race, and that just complicates the formula more when you hear your driver radio in. It's like you want to adjust to
track conditions and temperature change, but the one thing that crew chiefs really struggle with today is going from practice to the race. It's always different. I mean, this two car was excellent every practice that we've had here, but as soon as the race started, you see something that they have that's a little bit different. You can see the temperature of the racetrack was a little different too in happy hour.
Yeah, and I'll say two things about that. One, there was the 300-mile nationwide race yesterday, which is going to change the racetrack, the amount of rubber that's on there. The other is these teams along with the speed, your car is going to be different.
That was Josh Wise slowing to go to the pit lane, and we saw Keselowski and Earnhardt Jr. race by. Jimmy Johnson racing in the lead, while Matt Kenseth runs fourth pretty early on at Texas. Jimmy Johnson in pursuit of the six-pack, the sixth NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship. Starting today's race tied with Matt Kenseth for the chase lead. Right now leading this race here in Texas and a couple laps away from taking over the leading the most laps from Carl Edwards. Johnson in the #1 spot. Next Saturday, the NASCAR Nationwide Series championship fight continues in the Southwest Phoenix International Raceway, 3:30 Eastern, ESPN2. Things got a little bit closer together after yesterday's Texas race here. Austin Dillon still leading Sam Hornish. The fight continues next Saturday in the Valley of the Sun. And next Sunday, the penultimate race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Our NASCAR Sprint Cup Series telecast from Phoenix, presented by Quicken Loans. It's at 2 Eastern on ESPN. That's next Sunday. It should be a good one. Change for second place. Kyle Busch by Carl Edwards to the #2 spot. Now Matt Kenseth by Carl back to 4th position.
Yeah, you see Carl Edwards is kind of slipping back through the field as they put more and more laps on the tires. Got a good short run car like Dale said, but maybe that's why.
Yeah, that car just gets extremely loose. He must be making that car turn, getting his speed early on with the fresh tires and using that rubber. But it's just way, way too loose, Dave.
That's indeed the case, DJ, and he knows what that'll do to that right rear tire. We've already talked about it on the show today. So he's been conserving. He's been trying to save that right rear. He's about 10 laps away now from a pit stop.
It's got to be a difficult mindset on a driver because you know you've got to go, and you got to go fast, and you are going fast at this racetrack. But how do you go fast and take it easy on the right rear tire?
There's something that he's got probably in this part of the race, and so they get this worked out a little bit. He's going to have to understand that leading laps early on here and abusing that tire the way that he is, he's going to have to back off a little bit, and then his longer run will be better, and he will probably end up in the same spot or maybe a little bit ahead over that 40 to 45 laps that he's going to run, instead of jumping out there and leading these laps, abusing the tire, and then falling back like he is right now and roll.
Yeah, they probably do have a good 10 or 15 laps left of fuel in the tank. A lot of guys would like to short pit, like come in now, the next 4 or 5 laps. The problem is that they know that if they do that, there's a possibility somebody will have a tire issue, bring the caution out, and trap them a lap down. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to get in and get the tires off and get new ones on, but you know that it's a risk that goes with it.
So how does that discipline work? Is that something driver and crew chief have discussed before the race, or is that just purely on the driver to feel that car and understand what he needs to do?
Yeah, I think that's more something the driver has to understand about his car now here early on, and you have to make that adjustment yourself.
Jimmy Johnson putting Danica Patrick a lap down. Patrick in 32nd place. David Gilliland next up for the leader to overtake. And here's the race for second. Now Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, 18 and 20.
We're talking about Danica there as we watch this battle. Just for a minute, I was talking to Tony Stewart, who was here at the track earlier. Smoke doing well, but said he'd be up in the suite here. Talking with Danica some and trying to help her through and see if can help her day out here. But Smoke doing well, so all you fans out there, he's recovering and looking forward, obviously, to next year when he can get back in a race car.
You saw Joe Nemechek just coming off the pit lane in that shot. Going to begin to see a lot of green flag pit stops here shortly, and like Andy was talking about, trouble.
Kyle Busch just hit the wall.
18 is in trouble.
He was one of the first to find the tire issue yesterday. I'm just wondering if that's what happened here. He definitely got in the wall.
How bad is the right side? It's flush all the way from front to rear. Just straight flushed it.
Okay, here's Kyle Busch running right there in front of Matt Kenseth. He's running that high lane.
Yeah, this doesn't look like a tire issue. This looks like because you could see him come down, that maybe he just tried to get in there a little too hard on the entry to the corner.
I can hear something right there. I heard that yesterday.
Yellows out.
When these tires start to give up, they don't blow out. They start, the cord starts unwinding out of it, and it starts flapping up in the wheel well.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of grip right there.
So I should probably say it wasn't a blown tire, but these cords start coming off of there, and it starts flapping around, but you lose all your grip, and that's probably what happened with Kyle.
And Kyle, like I said, was one of the first to find that problem yesterday in the nationwide race. He's one that get a lot of speed out of a car, but evidently it's hard on the tires.
Be very interesting to see the tires come off that 18 car. Doc?
Somewhat of an enigma for Jimmy Johnson, something he haven't felt all weekend. Tight on entry. Jimmy Johnson tight on entering, especially in 3. I'm sorry, free on entering, especially in 3, and tight on landing. Right rear chassis change. 4 tires topping off with Sunoco fuel. Jamie.
The 20 of Matt Kenseth, they went up on the track bar the first stop, said it made the car worse, so they're going to reverse that a bit, fill them up with fuel, and put 4 tires on it. Mike?
Brad Keselowski saying he's loose on entry, needs a little bit more stability. They'll make a track bar adjustment and a 4-tire change. Dave?
Left rear wedge adjustment, 4 tires, Sunoco fuel for Carl Edwards. It's a good stop.
And he's going to nip that scoring line again, just ahead of Jimmy Johnson. Doc, Dave. So the Joe Gibbs team looking at Kyle Busch's car. Assess and repair the damage after Kyle, running second, got into the wall. Getting ready to restart at Texas Motor Speedway in the 8th race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, the AAA Texas 500. Carl Edwards gets the lead off the pit stops again. Matt Kenseth going to slip a couple of spots back to 6th place after this trip down the pit lane.
Definitely have to minimize mistakes. Looks like they have a pretty decent right side. Come around to the left. Front guys are having a good stop. Definitely struggling on that left rear, though.
Looks like the lug nut came off there.
So down 4 spots there, and for Carl Edwards, that first pit stall gets him that race lead back, while Kenseth and crew debate bonus point strategy.
Yeah, copy that. We just got to stay on it, man. That was a chance for us to get our point right there and lead this thing for a while. 48 slipped on his stop, 99 beat him out.
Front tire that came off that machine. Kyle Busch, as you'll recall, had a tire issue in the nationwide race Saturday afternoon. This seems to be very similar in the sense that the tire, not quite as dramatic as yesterday, but obviously you can see the tire and the way head is unfurled, so to speak. Obviously not the situation anybody wanted to see down here. It went nearly a full fuel load before this occurred, but obviously puts a huge dent in Kyle's attempt to win both races here in Texas this year.
Let's talk about what it is that makes that happen on those tires.
Well, what happens is they wear one part of the tire, the edge of it, down to the cord, and then what happens, it grabs a piece of that cord and it starts to unwind. That carcass is wound underneath with the fabric cords, and it's like a spool almost. And when that thing started unwinding, you could hear it flapping inside the wheel well, and then it just starts doing this. Now, they're really lucky, though, that it didn't blow out. And that's one of the things that this particular type failure is better than running it all the way through until it blows. At least they do have some warning in the air state in it.
Now, we both talked to Goodyear engineers separately this morning, and we both talked to a lot of crew chiefs this morning about this situation. And they'll tell you that it's a byproduct of a couple of things. You won't see it on every car. You'll see it on a car that is leaning on or wearing a particular tire harder.
Yeah, I mean, this is right on the edge. This is a high tire where we talked about at the start of the race how this surface really does grate the rubber off the tire. And if you have a car that's a little bit loose, it's going to take a little more off the right rear. If you got a car that's tight, it's going to put more pressure and wear more on the right front. So that's why it's so important to have the car balanced.
We saw a couple of these yesterday, particularly off Kyle Busch's right rear. Ricky Stenhouse also had a problem yesterday. The Goodyear engineers examining this and coming back with the same answer. It's about the balance on your race car and managing those tires.
Yeah, it really is as a driver, and you know that you have this situation, and so you can't go literally run the tires off of it some of these times. And it's also evolved as these setups have evolved, and a lot of teams are out here testing. They found other things that make them go faster, and that only increases these type of situations, the problems that they could potentially have.
They have waved off the restart now twice because they keep spotting little bits and pieces of debris. Brett Bodine, the pace car driver, reporting something going into turn 3 and so on. So they're waving off the restart, and you see that coming off of turn 4. So they're going out to pick up everything they can, and will be another lap before we go back racing. Give us a minute to remind you that you can stay tuned for our NASCAR nonstop coverage during the second half of today's race, and it is presented by Mobile One.
Yeah, we're hearing that the tire for Kyle Busch that time was the right front, and different than the car yesterday in the nationwide race, it was the right rear.
Yeah, and that's what we saw as he entered the corner. That's where it really happened. He didn't have any ideas. He came out of turn 2. He was still running fast speeds, and it just happens so quickly. But once that starts, and that probably was happening down the back straightaway, that happened as he dove off into the corner like he had been, and then all of a sudden he doesn't have that grip to hold.
A couple more bits and pieces to talk about on this tire discussion. First, from Carl Edwards and Company.
Have we had any bad-looking tires at all? No bad-looking tires. Wore the right rear out a little bit more than the right front, you know, because they're too loose.
And the other part to talk about is this. It's been an ongoing discussion in the sport this year, particularly on the repaved tracks. Tires that don't wear and the fuel only stops and all that. Everyone in the garage will tell you they want tires that wear and a track that wears the tires a little bit because it makes for better racing.
Yeah, it does that. And again, this is manageable by the driver and how much pressure you want to put there. You know, if you want to go literally, I'm not talking about the tires coming off, but you want to run the tread off of these, you can do that. But you can manage that and keep it from happening.
Pace cars off. Carl Edwards and Jimmy Johnson again on the front row. Jeff Gordon, Martin Truex, 11th and 12th. And Greg Biffle going to join the party in the 16.
Greg Biffle, always a driver that you pay attention to when you come here to Texas. Kind of likes to slide his car around. You see right there, Jeff Gordon a little bit late getting back to the gas. I'm not sure if he was a little bit free. Biffle going to try to take that spot away, but you have to watch this 16 car. He didn't necessarily have the qualifying effort that he was wanting, but I saw him in practice a couple times yesterday. Looked like his car was much better.
Two-time winner here at Texas.
Also a 10-time top 10 in a row.
Biffle running 11th right now, Dave.
Needed a little rear grip, Alan, so they made a track bar and an air pressure adjustment and added a little tape to the grill. Most interesting part of my discussion this morning was he said we were really progressing as you see this battle between the second and third place cars. Jimmy's taken over that second place spot. For Greg Biffle, they went back a little bit to their setups that were working before. Matt said they progressed a long way, but that just wasn't working for them this weekend, so they kind of went old school with the 16.
Greg trying to crack the top 10 at the moment. Jimmy Johnson back up to second. I want to file this note away for later because we've seen on the initial start of the race and each of the restarts that first spot outside lane does not appear to be the place to be.
No, it's not, and we've seen it a lot of places that we go. It's difficult because you're trying to anticipate. It's hard to get up this flat front straightaway that it doesn't have a lot of grip either. As you try to power up, you have to be careful not to spin the tires. And I will caution the other thing. Jimmy Johnson is not going to run his car that hard right now on these restarts. He's seeing what Carl Edwards is doing. He knows that he can take care of his tires and be a better car for the long haul. And so it might not be quite as bad as what it seems here right now, but you're right, Alan. It's definitely an advantage to be on the inside.
You were with us last Sunday at Martinsville. Remember, we heard Jeff Gordon's crew chief at one point as we see Johnson go for the lead. Tell his driver, give up one spot before you come off the pit lane. Don't know if you'll see any of those kind of games today. It's a little different view here in Texas. A lot longer pit lane, a lot harder to see. Familiar pattern to this race. Carl Edwards gets the lead off pit road. Leads a dozen or so laps. Then Jimmy Johnson goes roaring by. He got back into the championship conversation with his win at Martinsville last Sunday. Now early today, just past 100 miles in Texas, Jeff Gordon has hit the wall in turn 2, running 12th at the time.
A lot of damage to the right side of that car. You see the brake duct hoses are all coming out from under it. The left front tire is flat as well. And that's what caused this.
Right to the garage. Now the disaster drill that these teams prepare for goes into effect for Alan Gustafson and his crew. Pit road open. Will they come back in? Yes, they were all just in at lap 58. Here they are at lap 74, Doc.
That's how important tires are here at Texas Motor Speedway. Jimmy Johnson saying I'm still free entry, tight, landing tight, middle, right side and left side tires. Again, 4 new tires for Johnson. Jamie.
Matt Kenseth said, no matter what, guys, please don't lose me any more spots. I can't move anywhere on the track. 4 tires stop here. Car is a little bit better. They did make another adjustment, Mike.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying the entry just a little bit too tight. They'll make a track bar adjustment and 4-tire change on the 88. Dave?
Track bar adjustment for Carl Edwards, who just wants his car to stay a little bit longer. He'll not win the race off pit road this time.
Little strategy being played by a couple of teams.
See, Keselowski took right sides.
Obviously, you heard him just say it. This is going to hurt.
He'll need a miracle to make it up. You know, what we're seeing here, these new cars are nailed down so hard on the left front. That left front tire is really critical. Guys are dropping the pressure to get that spoiler down on the ground. We've heard of this happening before. There's a ton of camber out there. They're using that tire to turn the car. Just last week, when they tested Homestead, Casey Kane crashed because of the same thing. So they're going to have to watch the left side tires as much as the right side tires.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, in our pre-race show, you're really going to have to manage this situation. And the team that does that best will be the team that wins the race today. It is going to be a topic throughout the day will be this tire wear situation.
You got to remember, guys, they ran the first race here at Texas a long time ago. Was it back in April, I guess, with the Gen 6 car. Never had any problem whatsoever. Now, this kind of caught these guys off guard. The speeds are up, the temperatures are cooler, and I'm afraid those two components I just talked about have took these tires right over the edge. They're tearing them up right now, but I do think it will cure up and get better.
Coming to the restart, Brad Keselowski and Cards out front, Alan.
And a Nicole strategy. Just 2-tire change there on Keselowski in the 2 and Mark Martin in the 14.
I talked to Paul Wolf this morning. He said this 2-tire strategy might work with just a few laps on the lefts, but you've got to have the clean air to make it work. So you're going to see Brad fight really hard to try to get that. And it looks like he might have him cleared now.
Yeah, it won't work in a longer run here, I don't believe, but it's something very valuable to know right now, and now's the time to try it and see for later in this race if that's something that you could do to steal that track position and get a win.
Yeah, he said it's not good to get 2 tires just to move you up into, 4th, 5th, or 6th. He said that's not going to help you. You have to have the clean air to make it work if you're going to put right sides on. It looks like Brad has fought his way up to get that clean air.
So Keselowski hangs on to the lead. Now Edwards fighting with Jimmy Johnson for 2nd instead of for 1st. Little bobble there for the 48 off the corner. See all the ground Edwards opened up all in a hurry. David Reagan off the pace.
And just started locking up going down the front straightaway and blew up.
There you go.
Engine.
David was running 25th and on the lead lap. Housekeeping. Free pass at the caution went to David Ruderman. Wave arounds to get back on the lead lap. Bobby Labonte, Dave Blaney, Travis Kvapil, Danica Patrick, J.J. Yaley, and Landon Castle. I missed somebody there. There's one more. Yeah, Timmy Hill, 32. Hate it when I can't read my own writing.
One thing I've certainly noticed, a couple of Fords out front that we have here right now. Doug Yates always has horsepower in the Fords, but not sure that he hasn't stepped it up some here late in the year. Just, I don't know if he's trying things, but obviously they sat on the front row, and just watching them race around other cars, there's a slight advantage that you can see there.
And you can think that if he is trying something, that 2 car of Brad Keselowski would be the perfect car to put it in with nothing to lose.
2nd place. Only ran 5 laps that time before Jimmy got around Carl.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Carl is trying to manage this situation a little bit more, because we saw him last time jump out there for a few laps, but then he eased up. He's done the same thing here. So is he trying to manage this as best he can, realizing that there have already been some issues?
He went 1 lane higher. He's 3 back.
Into success on those tracks than any others. And we're seeing already today how much discipline it's going to require, besides a well-balanced race car, but how much discipline behind the wheel it's going to require from a driver to get through to be in position to race for this win.
Yeah, and right here's one of those is where, because he manages that really, really well as a driver, he's willing to search around, and he also understands that he can't just go out here and lay down those fast laps. That's not going to get him exactly what he wants at the end of a long run, which is being up towards the front. But looks like they've made some good adjustment for Matt right now, Jamie.
Well, they have, and it was interesting. He came on the radio right before that last stop, and he told Jason, he said, I can't move around out here. I'd rather take no changes on this stop and have a fast stop than lose lose positions making adjustments, but Jason Ratcliffe adjusted on the car anyway, went up on the track bar, a wedge adjustment, and now Matt's saying the car has improved as he moves forward. Alan?
All right, Jamie, so Matt up to third place now. 2.5 seconds behind the fight for the lead, a lead that's about to change hands.
Yeah, Jimmy's coming at him pretty hard right now. I think Brad's going to put much of a fight up on this one. Could be wrong.
Just thinking back to the finish of the race here a year ago.
Yeah.
These two guys racing for the win, bouncing off each other while they were racing for a championship. It was a lot of fun. Still early in this one, Jimmy Johnson rocketed from a good distance behind Brad Keselowski to pass him for the race lead. Texas Motor Speedway and race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, a race that's been a little eventful for a couple of the top 5 drivers in the chase entering today's 500-miler. Kyle Busch started the day 5th in points, running 2nd, popped the wall at lap 57 after a problem with his right front tire, shown there. Kyle has continued in the race. Not so fortunate Jeff Gordon at lap 73 running 12th. Hit the wall hard after the left front went down on his car. Gordon's team back in the garage trying to repair that machine and get it back in competition. So while Gordon's team's working in the garage, Kyle Busch restarted 29th, and Mike, he's up to 16th.
Yeah, and you know, they in the car thoroughly, and the good news for Kyle Busch was they did not knock the toe out. In fact, I spoke with one of the crew members, and they said they scuffed the wall in practice earlier this weekend and hit the wall harder then than they did in that incident earlier in this race. So they feel like they're okay if they can continue to not have tire problems, of course. He's a little bit loose through the middle, but other than that, he hasn't been complaining about the damage.
But that is the question, isn't it? If they can not have any more problems. Certainly got to be on their minds as we still run shy of the 1/3 mark and live leaderboard. Kyle fighting Ryan Newman for 14th place.
If you look at the way that the 18 car hit the wall, it was really even on the right side, and he was pretty high up on the racetrack when he did get into it, so he didn't have a big run and go at it. So it's possible they didn't really bend any of the suspension. Obviously it did some body work damage. Like they've got it back up to speed pretty well, though.
Lap times are pretty good.
Yeah, they are. And I would have to say that probably at this point in time of the race, we're not seeing everything this car would do at this particular time anyway, just making sure, trying to make sure that they don't have another similar problem.
And the pass for Kyle kicks him up to 14th place. Newman back to 15th. Jimmy Johnson leading. Matt Kenseth running 3rd. Trying to take 2nd from Brad Keselowski, and he'll do so fairly easily right here.
Yeah, the cream's definitely rising to the top.
I'm shocked that Jimmy and Matt are 1st and 2nd.
Talked a lot about who has the advantage starting the day. Matt Kenseth, 4 wins on the 1.5-mile tracks this season. Jimmy Johnson, none. But Jimmy has led the most laps in 2 of the last 3 races here at Texas and finished 1st, 2nd, and 6th in those 3 races. Johnson has led the most laps in this race. Kenseth has yet to lead in that 20. We heard the radio of him earlier imploring his crew to put him in position to be able to lead a lap. Carl Edwards fading back to 6th place and being challenged for that one by Kevin Harvick in the 29. A lot of interesting radio transmissions today. Well, pit road having that first pit stall at pit exit allows Carl to just jump across that scoring line pretty quickly. He's had the lead on a few different occasions off pit road today, Dave, but not been able to hold it.
Yeah, he needs about a 2-lap run to the checkers, right?
Yeah.
That would do it for him. Right now, he's wanting maybe a bigger adjustment on the car. He said the left front hits the track pretty hard, and he's asking crew chief Jimmy Fennig if maybe they should take a shim out of the left front. That's an adjustment to the shock absorber area. So they don't, but he doesn't know if he wants to. The wedge has been sort of working, says Carl, but just not enough. And you see he's still not got a lot of grip going off the edge of the corner there.
And that lack of grip's going to give up another spot.
Let's look at that momentum that 29 car gets off the top side.
Yeah, and Carl just not able to get in the throttle and drive off the corner and use the power that he has because.
So Kevin Harvick up to 6th place, and now Carl Edwards back to 7th place. And the farther he drops into this pack, the less that #1 pit stall is of help to him.
Yeah, exactly.
On another round of pit stops. Matt Kenseth running second, but Jimmy Johnson, his rival for the championship, is leading this race and has led the most laps in this race at Texas Motor Speedway. The 48 try to score a 6th win this season. Past 150 miles at Texas Motor Speedway, Jimmy Johnson leading in the 8th race in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Time for unlimited access to the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint Network. Jimmy Johnson has led the most laps today. He and Carl Edwards have done almost all the leading in this one. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Mobile 13 app with the unlimited My Way plan. Guaranteed for life and only from Sprint. See sprint.com/speed for details. Jimmy Johnson running first. Matt Kenseth running second. Besides being a shock to no one, it backs up what you were talking about at the top of our telecast, DJ. What was exciting about this championship is how these two guys were racing not just for the title, but racing for wins and projecting ahead their success on the remaining tracks in this chase.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we'll see and what we're accustomed to from them. And yeah, my point was about I said, you know, they're racing for points. You hear a lot of people talk and that some that don't necessarily like the chase format out there, fans that think that makes them points race. Well, these two drivers are doing that, but it's about the maximum points. That's what Matt Kenseth started the chase out with, doing it. A couple of victories there, getting max points. Jimmy had his day at Dover in doing that. So that's what they're after, is getting all the points, and that's the way that it should be, and kind of what the chase was designed around, and these two drivers and teams are doing that exactly this year. And it's going to go down to the last laps at Homestead, I believe.
And I hear a lot of people talk about how, well, Jimmy's never had a lot of success at Homestead. What you have to remember is that for almost the entirety of his career, hang on, Junior, as we watch Dale Jr. and Brad Keselowski race for 4th, for almost all of his career, he's gone to Homestead with one of those 15th or better or 8th or better for the championship situations. And the other times, he was far enough behind that he just had to lay it all out there and go. He hasn't really just gone out there to race for the win. They did, you know, last year they had the mechanical troubles trying to win the race and overcome Brad Keselowski. But he's not been in a position much at Homestead that make those numbers 100% the story.
I think that's what's intriguing about what we might possibly see in a couple of weeks is the chance that they have to be in that situation and how they will handle that. I think I pretty much know how they'll handle it.
Oh, yeah. And I think, like you said, those numbers are skewed by that fact. But Jimmy Johnson is very good at all of the racetracks. And it wouldn't surprise me a bit for him to be able to go down there and win.
A lot of teams down there testing at Homestead Miami Speedway this past week, midweek, getting ready for that championship weekend. It comes up in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it may take a victory there for him to beat Matt Kenseth because he's not going away.
Yeah.
We've seen Matt this year be tremendous at a lot of different type tracks. Obviously, these 1.5 miles, but even at places prior in his career that he wasn't all that good, he's making up points on this 48. So he's going to be right there. Going to be right there tonight, too.
He's about 3 1/3 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson right now.
Kind of have this run for some reason. I pull into the right feeling, kind of like you're working against the front tire, like I was explaining in practice. I didn't notice it the rest of the run. Maybe it's just because I'm thinking about that tire too much. But just a little heavier wheel, too, at the same time, you know.
Yeah, just a subtle feel he's got in the wheel with this set of tires.
Did he say, did I hear him right, say a happier wheel?
Maybe.
Said, or
a happy wheel is a fast wheel.
Or maybe snapping around a little too much, or I don't know. I thought that's what I heard him say. Here's somebody really on the move in this long green flag stretch of the race. Joey Logano, 22.
He's actually been on the go the whole race. Watched a lot of these runs, and he's been one of the fastest cars making up spots. It's just taking him a while to get there.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the car, and we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it will become that. It's all that fast at the start. But it's holding the tires very well, and that's helping him. Mike?
And Martin Truex on pit road now, making his stop. He's been complaining no front grip. Take 4 tires and fuel and make an air pressure adjustment.
This is how it's going to be when you get this long green run here today on the track that does wear the tires and scrub speed. When the first of the lead cars come in, everybody's going to come in. Mike?
And Brad Keselowski, a taker on pit road. The chassis wrench going in the rear window. They're going to make a track bar adjustment, expecting a 4-tire change in the 2 car as well as they swing around to the left side and slap a can of Sunoco race fuel in and fill it up. Now off the jack and away, Dave.
People went the wrong way on that run. They're going to put a wedge adjustment back that they did the last time the car got too tight for Greg. He'll get Sunoco fuel and 4 fresh tires. 9 of Marcus Ambrose also on pit road. That car has been very, very loose for him, and he'll get adjustments.
Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, Ricky Stenhouse, Kurt Busch, Paul Menard on the pit lane while Jimmy Johnson stays out and continues to lead. Dave?
99 of Carl Edwards is on pit road right now. We talked about the fact that he has no overall grip. That car has just lost the handle. He went from 2nd to 10th on that run. He'll get 4 fresh tires. They took a shim out of the left front and made a wedge adjustment. Mike?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. pretty happy with the car that run, although he says it's a little bit too free on exit. They're going to go to the track bar to make an adjustment there, and also wedge on the left side. A 4-tire change for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Sunoco race fuel.
Like a little hiccup on the right rear for the 88 team. Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Casey Mears, and Kyle Busch on the pit lane. Mike?
Kevin Harvick on pit road. No chassis adjustments, just air pressure, 4 tires and fuel. Harvick has been pretty happy with the car throughout the course of that run. No major adjustments and a clean stop. He's away.
This was a good run for Joey Logano. He picked up 3 positions. He said we are, quote, almost there on adjustments. Still just a little bit loose in turns 3 and 4. Air pressure to help that.
Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth still out on the racetrack.
It's like Jimmy Johnson stayed out a long time here, try to maybe keep the 20 car from leading a lap, but he's not going to get that done. He's going to give the lead to Matt Kenseth. He'll get it at the line. Doc?
Jimmy Johnson has not had a single complaint other than the fact that the car was still a little bit loose entry and tight middle chassis right rear. These guys have done it.
So Matt Kenseth gets the bonus point for leading a lap. No doubt he'll pit here. And indeed, Matt slows in turn 4. We'll see how much staying out longer on these older tires might have cost these top 2 in the overall picture of the race.
Yeah, they had a pretty big lead over the rest of the group from 3rd on back.
Jamie?
Matt Kenseth locked it up there, slowing down on pit road. Car was a big improvement that time around. This set of tires, though, felt funny. You heard him say he wants a happier wheel, so perhaps these 4 new sticker tires will help him with that. They've adjusted every stop. They filled them up fast. Stop, guys. Got it done in 12.1.
Here comes Jimmy. And he will whistle by Matt, who's just getting up to speed on the apron of the racetrack. We'll check the gaps, what they were before the pit stop, what they are now after the pit stop in just a minute. But Jimmy Johnson goes back out in front after the cycle of stops are complete. Monday Monday Night Football has the NFL's oldest rivalry, the 187th meeting between the Bears and the Packers. This one up at Lambeau Field. Brandon Marshall leading the 4-3 Bears against Aaron Rodgers and the 5-2 Packers. Coverage starts with Monday Night Countdown at 6:30, then Chicago, Green Bay tomorrow at 8:25 on ESPN and live at Texas Motor Speedway. Still shy of the halfway point of today's 500-miler.
Actually chipping into the lead of Jimmy Johnson by just a little bit.
Ate up a little bit of the gap on pit road.
Yeah, good pit stop by the 20 team. You can see that 12 flat. And it's a pretty good stop by Jimmy's, but lose a second there. Jimmy actually made his pit stop one lap sooner, which would give him a little advantage. Pressure tires on the racetrack, but now Matt's car seems to be a little bit better.
Yeah, I've seen Jimmy catching traffic kind of at places that not to his advantage to get the faster laps. So Matt's been able to chomp into that lead just a little bit. Both of them, I think, are being relatively easy on the tires, just knowing that they don't want to create any issues.
There is the difference between pre-pit stop and right now as we hit the 200-mile mark of this one. .22 cars on the lead lap at this point. Top two of the championship running first and second. Other stories on the day: Kyle Busch hit the wall earlier, but has rallied back in the 18 car to run in the top 10 now. Jeff Gordon had a crash at lap 73. He is behind the wall in the garage. Team working on his car. Gordon showing 42nd at the moment. Michael McDowell's car out of the race. David Reagan's car just retired from the race. And behind the top two in the race and the championship, Joey Logano with a nice drive today in Roger Penske's 22. And he's up to third.
Joey said that's not enough. We've got to go a little bit farther. The car is way too loose at the start of this run.
Joey's teammate Brad Keselowski running right behind him, and really, Andy, the two-tire call by Paul Wolfe on the pit stop earlier to get Brad some track position at lap 75 has worked out well.
Yeah, it did, because they ran a complete cycle there on those tires, and it's worked out for a net gain for Brad and Paul, so that was a good move. They've got something they learned that they maybe can use later in this one.
I know they started on the front row, but they had fallen back, and so Paul went to get some of that track position back in the Blue Deuce.
Yeah, I think they're still searching for a little bit of handling to get to Brad's liking, but a lot of racing to go.
56, Martin Truex, one of the first to make the move to pit road to start that green flag cycle, and they used the speed advantage of those fresher tires that they took at lap 119 when Johnson and Kenseth didn't pit until 125 and 126 to gain some ground.
Yeah, and it did that. They gained a big chunk of ground, but now by the fact they have older tires than the other guys, they're losing a little bit of speed. About 3 or 4 tenths off of the leader right now.
Was ninth before the pit stops, now running in fifth. Kevin Harvick, 29 car, been scraping up toward that wall all day long. He was one of the early ones to explore that outside lane.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure that he got some rubber, got that cleaned off and got some fresh rubber down there, and has been utilizing that most of the day. But a nice run towards the front.
And Dale Jr. running right behind Harvick in 7th place. Matt Kenseth running second. Moment ago in turn 2.
Yeah, I was watching this, and all of that lead that he had cut into, he lost about a second of it right here as he got in a tight spot.
Elliott Sadler 55, Landon Castle 40.
He had intentions going between them until that gap closed up just a little too much for him.
Outside.
That's a championship move right there, backing off the throttle.
Still there. They're high.
You're pretty early in this race.
Yeah.
Still. So Matt now fallen back to 3.5 seconds behind race leader Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy's led 83 laps.
57. Dig deep, find that extra gear. Well, how about this one? Coming into the race, Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth were tied in points. Right now they are 1-2 on the track, Ray.
Yeah, and they continue to show why they are basically tied in points 1 and 2 on the racetrack. Both guys know the challenge. They have fast cars. They seem to be managing their tires and keeping each other in sight.
Yeah, absolutely. Both guys doing an excellent job. And like you say, the cream has risen to the top here. Both of these teams very aware of what's going on with the tires, managing those situations, getting the most out of their race cars right now. A lot of racing left, but I think we're going to see these two guys at the end of the day.
But I think what's going on right now, Brad, is that they're getting good information from their crew chief saying that the tire wear is getting better. More rubbers get laid on the racetrack. The drivers are not wearing the tires near as much. The crew chiefs are having more confidence. And for the two drivers that are driving so hard out there, Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth going for this championship, that's really good news. Look, we had high tire wear early, but I think it's pretty well gone now.
I'm going to point something out. The fastest car on the track right now, Matt Kenseth, Allen, and he is gaining on Johnson.
Has gone from 3.5 seconds behind Jimmy Nicole to 1.5 seconds behind in these last 10 laps or so. Closing and closing.
Yeah, rapidly right now. This 20 car is quite a bit better than Jimmy.
The 20s, you guys have been documenting, he's getting better every run. And of the 4 pit stops so far today, the last one is the first time they did not adjust on this car. Matt just now coming on the radio and telling his crew chief, we've gotten a lot better. You've improved my overall grip a few numbers. So he's happy. And by the way, the track temp has dropped about 10 degrees since the start of the race.
Yeah, Jamie, the sky is completely overcast now, which was forecast. There's rain in the forecast for tomorrow here in the Fort Worth area, but not for today. But it was forecast to get overcast. And then, of course, that'll just accelerate the drop in track temperature that normally this race finishing under the lights brings on.
Yeah, it won't create as big a difference as what we've seen here in the past sometimes, to where you had that huge difference of a sunny afternoon and high track temps. Now it's not going to drop all that much, even though it will continue to get a little bit cooler. It just won't make the track as effective grip-wise.
Down to 16 cars on the lead lap. Juan Pablo Montoya has just been overtaken by the race leader, Jimmy Johnson. Right now, the gap first to second is stabilized just a little bit. Both drivers working in and out of some lap traffic. It's holding steady at just a bit better than a second and a half. Approaching midway in the AAA Texas 500.
So I went to the Texas State Fair. Got some crazy fried foods, rode some rides, played some games, even won a prize. Then you won't believe what happened. I realized I wasn't at the fairgrounds. I was at a speedway. The Great American Speedway.
You know I'm here for the party.
The No Limits Wild Asphalt Circus. Quite a show before the race starts at Texas Motor Speedway. And the show being put on the track now by the top two in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth running first and second. Kyle Busch on the pit lane, Mike.
Yeah, and he's actually been pretty happy with the race car, except for when he experiences the aero tight sensation. A 4-tire change, air pressure adjustment, Sunoco race fuel, no work on the chassis. He's away. Good stop.
So that has got to be unscheduled there for Kyle. That's pretty early, isn't it? Maybe not. More cars heading in now, Doc.
Tracy Kane just said, I think I may have an issue with the right front. I'm going to go ahead and come a couple laps early. It would have been about 3 laps early. Right side change, left side tires. Jamie.
Denny Hamlin started his day 14th. He made a stop there. He had cording on the tires the last round of stops, so they'll take a look at those. Overall, pretty comfortable with the car, just working on it to get it better for the end.
That's only 40 laps or so since they pitted.
Yeah, what's happening is the cars that short pitted the last green flag run are doing that at the same cycle again, which makes it seem like a lot shorter because Jimmy Johnson stayed out so long. It's really only been about 33 laps or so since Jimmy pitted.
Here's the Biff.
16 is in. He said I could use a little bit more turn, but with the track freeing up, that's his crew chief telling him that. They're only going to make a minor air pressure adjustment in addition to 4 fresh tires and a full load of fuel. Mike?
Martin Truex Jr. saying the car is getting a little bit loose late in the run. They were a little bit concerned about their tires because they had a problem with the right front during the test. The last stop, they made a thorough examination of the tires. We're happy to see they didn't have any issues. A 4-tire change here. The 56 is away, Doc.
27 car, Paul Menard in, loose center and exit. They've made an air pressure in the right rear. They've made a track bar adjustment last time. 4 tires, he's away. Mike.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has said the car has felt a little bit better over the course of this run, although it had been getting more and more free as the laps wore on. You see they went to work on the chassis. A 4-tire change for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Sunoco Race Fuel trying to tighten him up just a little bit.
That's only 42 laps between stops for Dale Jr., 44 for Martin Truex.
We'll see how long Jimmy decides to stay out this time. I think he stayed out a long time the last run to try to keep Matt Kenseth from leading the lap. We'll see if now, since Matt's led one, that he'll maybe pit a little bit shorter.
Clint Boyer's in, Dave.
Just too loose on that run, Alan. A 4-tire stop for him as well. They'll get a left rear wedge adjustment to try to help that and get Clint back out here. Brian Patty told me this would be a tire management race today, and Clint is very good at it. So far, no problems for him. As for Carl Edwards, still not going the right direction. His car won't turn the middle of the corner, so he needs to have a track bar adjustment. They'll go up on that, air out of the rear tires.
Kevin Harvick saying he's just a little bit loose on exit, a little bit frustrated too because he says the adjustments that have been made throughout the course of the afternoon haven't really taken much effect to the race car. Gill said he'd take a little bit of a bigger stab this time around. Air pressure, 4 tires for the 29.
Johnson, Kenseth, Logano, Keselowski not yet having pitted. Newman and Montoya have not stopped yet. And this is where you get into that crazy looking stuff on the racetrack where the guys with fresh tires are tearing around the guys that have been the leaders for the whole race who are out there on older tires. Jimmy last pitted at lap 125. So that's 44 laps right there on that run for the 48 car. As we look down from our aerial coverage for today's race provided by Goodyear, everything we learn making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Here's Brad Keselowski in. Mike?
His only complaint so far, Alan, is that he isn't turning as well as he'd like to in the center. Otherwise, he says he's pretty happy with the stability on exit and with the race car, saying it's the best it's been throughout the course of the day. Team completing its work on the right side, swinging around to the left side. Sunoco Race Fuel being put in, up on the jack, off the jack and away for the 2, Dave.
Ryan Newman's had an adventurous day, bounced off the wall on lap 114. Car's been mostly tight during this run, so they'll get a chassis adjustment as well as air pressure for Ryan. They'll pull full fuel, a 4-tire stop. Joey Logano is in as well. His good run continues. On that run, he said he's okay when he's running by himself, but when he gets into the traffic, into the dirty air, the car is just too loose. There'll be a wedge and air pressure adjustment for Logano. Hard to tell if he got anything done on that right rear wedge or not, but the 4 tires are now on, and they're finishing up their work. He leaves.
A little bit slow there on Logano. Did you happen to notice in that right side box when Greg Biffle on the fresh tires came up to go by Jimmy Johnson, wrapped him right square in the back bumper down the backstretch? I haven't forgotten Martinsville. Jimmy's in, Doc.
Jimmy Johnson saying the car starting to get free into turn 3 and free off, but still a little bit snug in the middle. They've been tweaking the track bar to try to keep it from getting too tight in the middle. Again, about a half a turn right near track bar. He is down and away.
Matt Kenseth, now the only one who hasn't pitted in this cycle as Montoya is in. And now Kenseth trying to get her load up to make that commitment cone. Here he is, Jamie.
And Matt Kenseth is saying he's getting just a little bit loose into 3, but all else seems to be okay. They are going to make another chassis. Just like there is the wrench in the left side of that windshield, that rear windshield. 4 tires will go on. They'll fill them up with Sunoco fuel and see if they can help him out a bit.
That crew doing an outstanding job once again right there at that 12-second mark.
So Jimmy Johnson here, start-finish line, as Matt exits the pit lane and now can begin to get back up to speed on that apron of the racetrack.
Jimmy went 50 laps on the last segment, went 47 on this one.
Ooh. Pit road speeding, Matt Kenseth.
I wondered if he might be a little bit quick getting down the pit road. Sliding the tires, getting right to the cone.
Speeding in section 4, bud. We'll have to do a pass-through.
Section 4, that might not be that first section.
Right there. It was exiting, I believe,
yeah.
was the call.
So it wasn't where I thought it was.
NASCAR says it's the section after his pit stop. So pass-through coming up for Matt. And that's going to take him from second place, 3.5 seconds behind Jimmy, to we'll see where after he makes the penalty. And suspect that he'll make that penalty stop the next time by, because NASCAR says if you don't, we're going to stop scoring you. Rather standard operating procedure. Interesting twist in the story of this one, just past midway at Texas.
Come on now.
Matt Kenseth has served his pass-through penalty for speeding on pit road, caught on his green flag pit stop at lap 173. He came down the pit lane at lap 176 and went from second place, about 3 seconds behind race leader Jimmy Johnson, all the way back to last on the lead lap in 16th, 27 seconds behind Jimmy. So basically just a few seconds ahead of him. He's picked up a couple of spots since he came back out onto the racetrack, but what a costly mistake on that pit stop for Matt.
It was costly, but as that happened and I saw this, I said, well, we're going to see just how fast that 20 car is, because he has to run now, and he has been about 2 or 3 tenths faster than Jimmy this run so far.
And you heard in our pre-race interview Jimmy Johnson say that this championship would probably come down to mistakes. Well, you see what that mistake at this point in the race has caught Matt Kenseth. Got a long way to go. Probably not going to finish that far back, but that's what a mistake's worth.
Yeah, and it could, as long as he doesn't make a mistake.
Way wildly loose. More vertical load, the looser it is. I'm sorry, the more side load, the looser it is.
As long as he doesn't create another mistake by that mistake, because right here Andy was just talking about how hard he's running that car. You don't want to get yourself in a position of doing that and then you blow a tire out, and that just compounds your issue. So very uncharacteristic of Matt Kenseth. He's really great majority of the time on and off of pit road, actually making up time on most people.
Yeah, he is, but it just shows you just how much pressure it is that you try to get everything you can get, you know, on these pit stops, on the racetrack. And this is actually the second speeding penalty he's had in the last 5 races. He got one at Kansas as well. You see a little trash on Jimmy's grill, though.
The passenger picked up on the race leader's nose.
Brad must be eating hot dogs down the pit studio and put the wrapper out.
So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that becomes a problem for the race leader. Now, is that something that blew on, or was that something that was put on?
Yep. Look there.
Oh, there's the answer.
Yeah, the temperatures are cooling down, so these crews are adjusting their car for that, getting ready for the end of this race, so they have as much downforce as possible.
So you're going to apologize to Brad now about the hot dog wrapper? Or
Well,
probably still out there.
Yeah, he probably
right?
still eating hot dogs. But it just wasn't his.
That's an hit. I'm coming to you.
Carl Edwards. What's wrong with the pole sitting car, Dave?
Just a lap ago, Alan, he said we're blowing up. He felt that he had a cylinder going down. They're checking with Carl now on every diagnostic thing that he can do, checking his battery voltage, telling him what he feels, what he hears, but he's bringing it on pit road. They'll go under the hood and take a long look at it, but Carl feels like he'll be done.
Oil reported on the backstretch. Caution is out. Huge break for Matt Kenseth.
They say we drop That's why it's out here.
Spring rubber out of somebody's car. So fourth caution.
Everything looks good. All the pressures and bolts are good. It's like something broke.
And Matt Kenseth is going to get the close up from 26 seconds back. Now to be bunched up behind the pace car, behind Jimmy Johnson. He's going to get about a mile of this mile and a half back with this yellow flag.
Yeah, and if you're going to battle for championships and win championships, you have to have some good fortune along the way. And this is one of those for Matt Kenseth and his team.
I'll tell you, another break was for Kyle Busch. He was way back there. He short pitted, gained a lot of track position. He got up to second, but his tires were a little bit older. He was going to start giving away some of that. But this caution flag coming out now is a big break for him.
Who'd ever thought, though, to watch that car hit the wall that much? Just shows how durable they are and the great job that that team did getting that car repaired and making it still competitive.
So pit road not yet open. Checking for liquid from the 99 car in case he put any down on the pit lane, and don't want cars slipping and sliding through that while pit crews are out there working. So NASCAR are going to take the cautious approach here and the right approach and check that out before they open the pit lane.
Yeah, if it was on the track, there's a good chance it was going to still have some in it as he came down pit road.
Yeah,
a couple of times actually.
See him trying to diagnose. You see a little bit of smoke coming out the exhaust.
Come up with your mic.
Rusty talked about this in the pre-race show about his concern of the high RPMs and speed that we have, that the engines would take a beating here today.
So Matt Kenseth up to 12th place now after the green flag pit stop speeding penalty.
I guess we should get together, probably not be quite as aggressive here, I guess. Sorry about that. I went to what he said. I copied that. As soon as he said now, I slammed the brakes. I actually went about 500 under because I was so far over when I got there, but I slowed down as soon as he said now, as hard as I could possibly slow down.
It sounds like they're trying to push that issue to gain as much as they can, but maybe just a little too aggressive.
In that timing segment where your pit box is, you go as fast as you can to make up all the ground you can until you get to that next timing line. Then you better be on the brakes before you get busted in that next zone.
That's one of the advantages they see that they can, or one of the things they can take an advantage of, but you have to be careful with it.
Pit road open. Doc?
First time today we've heard Jimmy Johnson really complain that the car was really edgy, really squirmy, so they decided they're going to really tighten him up. 1.5 rounds, left rear, 4 tires, full of Sunoco fuel. Jamie.
Matt Kenseth had gained 4 spots since his speeding penalty, saying the car is just loose in, loose off, just wobbly loose. So they're going to go back on that wedge adjustment. They just did it. 4 tires, they'll fill them up with fuel. Mike?
Kyle Busch saying he's tight center, loose off, especially in traffic. Very aero sensitive today, especially with that flat right side. 4 tires and fuel, Dave.
The end of the run, third place, Logano was a little bit tight in the center of the corner, so they'll do just a small air pressure adjustment. He'll be the 3rd car off pit road.
That's how they run. As Carl Edwards has just turned left into the garage. We go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Mobil 1.
Why is it better to get what you want now instead of later?
Because you don't want to wait to eat your raisins.
You don't want to wait to eat your raisins?
No.
Why not?
Because they'll turn into grapes.
Not sure that's the way it works.
Yes.
Are you competing for cutest kid right now?
Yes.
And what place are you in?
Kindergarten?
That's adorable.
It's not complicated. Now is better, and AT&T is the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network.
See you in the morning, my friend. Bright and early.
All right, guys, let's huddle up here and talk probiotics. For digestive health? Yes, and did you know that True Biotics is a daily probiotic that helps in 2 ways? It supports digestive and immune health by working in your gut, where 70% of your immune system lives. Try True Biotics today.
Didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rally his cage over.
I understand the way he races now that he's not my teammate, and I will race him the same way he races.
Bristol is the battleground, and the world's best drivers have settled the score at the last great Coliseum. 2014 season tickets are on sale now. Call 423-BRISTOL or visit bristoltix.com.
I learned my lesson there. I'm going to run over him every chance I got.
No! Bad dog! Outside! We've been through this. Disgusting.
Fans are not born, they're made. Forged from happiness and horrors. Their loyalty and belief grows, as does their effort and intensity, until their fandom becomes who they really are. A fan worthy of the Fan Hall of Fame. Are you worthy? Apply now. FanHallOfFame.com.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by Mobil 1, the official motor oil of NASCAR. Mobil 1. Sprint, the drive to win is for life. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. And Bank of America, proud supporter of our service members and veterans.
Doubled up for the restart coming up on 300 miles of today's race at Texas Motor Speedway. Main stories on the day. Kyle Busch running second, hit the wall back at lap 57. After that happened to his car's right front, the crew made repairs. They're running second now. Lap 73, Jeff Gordon not as lucky. Hard into the turn 2 wall after his left front tire went down. Gordon still in the garage area, listed in 42nd place. And just moments ago, Matt Kenseth speeding on a green flag pit stop, lap 173. The penalty dropped him all the way back to 16th in line. He's going to be 13th on this restart, while his rival for the title, Jimmy Johnson, has been dominating, leading most of this race, and Jimmy in the lead with Kyle Busch to his outside, now coming to this green flag restart. Johnson holds the lead. Kyle Busch second. Joey Logano third. This is Dale Jr. 88. Brad Keselowski 2 for fourth.
Yeah, both these drivers have been solid today, but just not a match for the 48 in particular and the 20 before he had his speeding issue.
And there's a difference between solid and spectacular, right?
Yes.
48 and 20 have been spectacular. So the big question here, how much ground can Matt Kenseth make up in that 20 from 13th place on the restart without sacrificing the durability of the tires that we've talked about over and over again through the first half of this race?
I think his car is definitely good enough to drive his way up in probably the 7th or 8th spot before this run is over, if they go a full run, which has been somewhere around 45 laps. I think he can definitely do that. He's obviously, to get to Jimmy Johnson, he's going to need another caution flag, but you know, he's still in pretty good shape here.
I think they can race their way back in it without having to do anything trick to get the track position back.
6th place, Harvick 29, Truex 56. Harvick going to slide up into that spot. Truex announcing here on Friday he has signed with Furniture Row Racing to take over that 78 ride next year. And I think the part of the announcement that raised interest among a lot of people, the over-the-wall crew that's servicing his car this year for Michael Waltrip Racing. They signed them all to go with him for next year.
Yeah, and I talked to Todd Berry, the crew chief, and that team is basically going to be supplied by Michael Waltrip Racing and trained over there. And so I thought that was interesting, too, that they were going to take this crew over to Furniture Row. And that has been one of the weak points at the 78 team.
So Truex riding out the season for Michael Waltrip Racing, running in 7th right now. Remember, he came so close to winning the race here back in April. Kenseth looking to get into the top 10. He will if he passes Ryan Newman here.
Yeah, Ryan Newman on that restart went up on that high side again, like we saw Harvick and Newman do early in the race, and made up about 4 spots from where he restarted.
Quick mentions, Paul Menard got the free pass to get back on the lead lap at this caution. Marcus Ambrose, Kurt Busch, and Juan Pablo Montoya took waiver rounds to get back around onto the lead lap. So they're on a little bit different pit schedule.
Jimmy Johnson's led the most laps, and he's led the most laps at another 1.5 miles this year. It was at Kentucky. It's the only time that he's done that on a 1.5 mile track this year. The only problem was Matt Kenseth won that one.
That was one of those where the late restart saw the race get away from Jimmy. Been a little bit of a theme. What a recovery for Kyle Busch, running 2nd to Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, that's a little warm. He's talked about 260. I'm assuming that's the water, and 290 on the oil. That's probably up the upper limit of where they want to be. Just let them know it's getting warm.
300.
And climbing.
Yeah, that's not good. It's going to continue there.
Sanandra, just let Joey go and see if something swipes off. 15 back by himself.
Just trying to see if there's anything on the grill of that 18 car. There must be something there, but it must be dark in color because I can't see it.
Go by you, but I don't see anything on the grill. Looks clear.
Thank you, Dave Rogers.
Well, he agrees with us anyway. He's not saying there's not something there. We just can't see it.
Yeah. Joey Logano went by him, but he couldn't stay tucked right up on him.
Something on your grill. There is debris on your grill.
He must have gotten the binoculars out and found something on the grill. It must be something dark because it's really hard to see for us.
Looks like maybe in that very bottom right corner. Possibly just saw something there. Or it would be the left as we look at it, but the right corner of the grill.
Sure, you're going to have to pit. There's a black piece of wrapper on your grill.
It must be clear. That's the reason we can't see it.
You can see it.
Yeah, it looks like there is something on that grill.
Yeah, just tucked all the way over on that.
Telling Joey to come back to you. He's just not doing it enough.
So keep an eye on that. Kyle Busch running 3rd. He was running 2nd when he had the tire problem earlier. NASCAR Nonstop presented by Mobile One.
Seatbelts, headrests, and airbags help you survive a crash. But if you upgrade your headlights, you may even avoid one. See farther, wider, better. Silver Star Ultra headlights from Sylvania.
Everything you do on the new Sprint network is important. Today, we honor Jenna's Facebook activity.
Stephanie has sent you a friend request.
You and Stephanie are now friends.
Hannah has sent you a friend request.
You and Hannah are now friends.
Greg has sent you a friend request.
In honor of all the important things you do on our network, Sprint brings you one up. Upgrade to a new phone every year and get unlimited talk, text, and data guaranteed for life. Now only $65 a month.
Before Carolyn Hughes was a peacekeeper in Haiti. Before William Hughes fought in Vietnam. And John Hughes jumped into Normandy. And John Anderson Hughes served in World War I. And before Robert Hughes joined the Spanish-American War, there were families connected to the belief that freedom was worth fighting for. We're proud to help veterans and their families succeed here at home.
In NASCAR, there's nothing a fan, team, or driver wants more than to be first. First on the leaderboard, first out of the pits, first to the checkered flag. In the nation, being first is just as important. At Nationwide Insurance, we put members first because we don't have shareholders. It's why the Earnhardt family has trusted Nationwide for more than 35 years.
Nationwide is on your side.
These lights alert you to potential trouble. So do these. See farther, wider, better. Upgrade to Silver Star Ultra headlights from Sylvania.
Let's move a little bit now. Let's go. Let's go.
Bears, Packers, tomorrow 8:25 Eastern on ESPN.
Well, as you watch in NASCAR Nonstop, Brad Keselowski was the one that Kyle Busch was able to slide in behind and lift that debris off the grill of his 18 before he had to come down pit road.
See it go right there.
Right there. Not sure if Brad was doing that willingly.
Here's the other story. Matt Kenseth. What was it you said? You thought he could get up to 7th or 8th on this run?
I don't think you're shooting high enough. He's already there.
Passing Kevin Harvick for 7th place.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to stop there.
Next ahead is Clint Boyer by about 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, it's already been a big rebound for them to get themselves back in this position because, you know, the championship could have been slipping away from them with that one mistake. But now it's very manageable still, and probably he will make up more spots before this is over.
So while you were watching NASCAR Nonstop and I talked about the 2 being the one to help the 18 get the debris off the grill, that didn't come without a little bit of a smile on our parts when we heard a little maybe cooperation going on. Here's the 2 radio.
Funny how the world works.
I guess we weren't the only ones that wasn't lost on. So Kyle Busch back to 4th place after beginning to overheat while running in 2nd and now trying to make up some lost ground. Championship of the NASCAR Nationwide Series down to its final 2 races. Second to last one of the season next Saturday at Phoenix International Raceway. Austin Dillon leading Sam Hornish Jr. by just a little bit. 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2. That's next Saturday. And I don't know what the championship picture will look like in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series going to Phoenix, but I know we'll have the race for you next Sunday, presented by Quicken Loans on ESPN starting at 2 Eastern Time from the Valley of the Sun. Carl Edwards won the Phoenix race back in March. He won't win at Texas here tonight. Jamie?
We heard Carl Edwards talking about some engine issues. You got out of your car, you talked to your crew chief and the team. What did they tell you?
It looks like maybe broke a valve spring and that whole cylinder's messed up, which is really unfortunate because this is about the most fun I've had in a car in a long time. It's a fun racetrack. Goodyear and the track did a good job of matching things, even though they're having some tire trouble. It's tough, and it's tough for Aflac. They've done so much for us this year. They've got a policy for just about everything except for a sick engine, so we feel bad for them. Paul Amos and the guys, we got the pole, and we were hoping to get a win, but now we go to Phoenix and Homestead, hopefully wrap up with a couple of wins. We feel like we need to end on a strong point, go to Vegas, and get prepared for next year. But this is definitely not what we wanted.
Well, he started on the pole, and his day is over. Alan?
Don't know that there's anybody that gets those sponsor mentions in as smoothly as Carl. That was a pretty good one. But Carl Edwards out after starting on pole. Now Carl being out means that Jimmy Johnson has clinched the bonus point for leading the most laps today. Nobody can lead enough laps from now to the end of the race to overtake the amount that Jimmy has led in this one.
I think he has his sights set on the rest of them, too.
I think he'll end up having to race Matt Kenseth for this win before it's over. I can watch these lap times, and Matt's picking them off. And when he is in the clear, he's quicker than Jimmy.
Yeah, that'll take a caution to bunch him back up at some point in time because Jimmy's car's better this run than what it was the previous run. He got, I believe, a little bit on the loose side, lost a little bit of the grip. Maybe the track changed with some, as we've gotten cooler temps here, and Jimmy and them made an adjustment. It looked like his car is much, much better throughout this run. Not that he could, I shouldn't say much. I'm not sure how much better it could have gotten, but it was better than the previous run.
Well, you can see Matt Kenseth really working hard, though. Look at him work that steering wheel. Not a walk in the park, is it?
No, it's not. Not at this track. The speeds and the track itself makes it difficult. Full day's work at 500 miles around here.
Kevin Harvick says never a dull moment. When you're trying to drive the car to the edge all the time, it's definitely a challenge in Texas every lap.
This is Brad. This day of coaching begins with knee pain when...
Hey, Brad, want to trade the all-day relief of 2 Aleve for 6 Tylenol?
What's the catch?
There's no catch.
You want me to give up my 2 Aleve for 6 Tylenol? No. For my knee pain, nothing beats my Aleve.
At Goodyear, we make tires for the world's most demanding drivers. Meticulously crafted to help handle 200-mile-per-hour turns. Always evolving to face the grueling demands of NASCAR. And everything we learn making tires for our most demanding customers inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
What's that? KFC Go Cup.
That looks better than this.
Victor 7, we have a 1031 in progress.
You take this one, kid.
Why settle for an ordinary snack? Try crispy tenders and wedges. Just one of 5 new KFC Go Cups. Only $2.49 each. Today tastes so good.
I have a big meeting when we land, but I'm so stuffed up I can't rest.
NyQuil Cold and Flu Liquid Gels don't unstuff your nose.
They don't?
Alka-Seltzer Plus Night fights your worst cold symptoms, plus has a decongestant.
Oh, what a relief it is.
You don't make it to Vegas unless you make it through the gauntlet. Through the costly pits and searing heat, the swerves and the slingshots, the black flags, cautions, and restarts, the blown tires and short fuses, the crashes and the chaos. You don't make it to Vegas unless you're a champion. NASCAR Champions Week in Las Vegas. Find out how you can join us at championsweek.nascar.com.
Last year was last year. This is a new start.
Pull up teardrop. Got it! Derek Rose!
Our goal is to win the championship.
Wow! Unbelievable!
I want to be the best. I'm just trying to do as much as I can to be that, and I'm going to die trying.
Kia Tip-Off Week continues. Bulls Pacers at 7 Eastern. Mavs Thunder at 9:30. Presented by State Farm, Wednesday.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway, lap 224 now in the books, which means we have 110 to go, and Jimmy Johnson is still out front. Time now for the Dodge Durango race rundown. Let's talk about Johnson's closest competitor, Matt Kenseth. Lap 58, slow on the left rear, fell from 3rd to 6th. Problem number 1 of the day.
Yeah, problem number 1, but this is the second problem right here. He comes down pit road too hot, gets a pit road speeding penalty, has to do a pass-through penalty, but he's done real good. Now he's back up to 7th.
Yeah, fell to 18th, but on lap 199, he was already back in the top 10.
Yes, he is, and Matt is absolutely flying. One of the consistently the fastest car on the racetrack. I think he's working his way towards making a big finish today.
As we come inside the Quicken Loans ESPN pit studio, before this race began, Jimmy Johnson made a comment about this championship could come down to mistakes. Well, Jimmy Johnson hasn't made a mistake today. Matt Kenseth has had 2.
Yeah, he did, and he's very, very lucky this is a 500-mile race, and he made that mistake early because his car is so fast he's been able to come back. And the thing that I question is, that close on pit road for a 10th or 2 of a second. I understand.
Quick, 5:36 local time. the track is going to change again. Who will adjust?
Yeah,
108 to go. You think the last 100 will be a completely different story?
Yes, I really do, Nicole. I think the last 100 miles of this race is going to change big time. I really do. I think you're going to see different players back up top that haven't been up there all day long just because the track is changing. Another thing to remember, guys, everybody out there has been short stopping. They've been hitting pit road somewhere between 40 and 45 laps. These cars can go up to 55 laps, and if the driver saves, they can go farther. So look for that at the end if these guys got to do it.
By the way, Kenseth just gained one more spot on the track.
Yeah, Matt Kenseth is absolutely flying. Another car to watch would be Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is someone we're not talking about since we saw him get the trash off the radiator. He is absolutely getting around the racetrack very quickly as well.
Alan?
Nicole, thanks. So coming up quickly on another round of green flag pit stops, particularly if we see everybody stop as shortly as they did the last time through, Andy.
Yeah, we're 38 laps into this run, and we saw some of the cars stop right around that 40-lap mark, even though we saw Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth go farther than that, closer to 50 laps.
And just following up on what Rusty and Brad and Ray were talking about track change and conditions change and so on, the air temperatures remain pretty steady throughout the entirety of the race, but it started off under sunny skies. Now it's completely overcast, and that is going to make that transition to the track temperature we'll see at and after sunset happen more quickly.
I don't think it's going to be as big a swing either, just for that fact, because we had some overcast and cooler conditions, and so I do think it's going to change, but not as much as we really thought we might see with sunshine on the racetrack.
Fourth place here. Dale Jr. going by Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, Junior's been turning some really good lap times here after he got some laps. His car didn't seem to be quite as much, or either he was just taking it easy on the tires at the beginning of the run, but really hasn't fallen off a lot, and another solid run by this team.
So waiting on that next round of pit stops if the race stays under green, and you won't miss a thing. As we go NASCAR Nonstop, presented by Mobil 1, Jimmy Johnson, the leader right now at Texas.
In the nation, sometimes bad things happen. But add brand new belongings from Nationwide Insurance, and we won't just give you the partial value of items that are stolen or destroyed. We'll replace them with brand new versions, so you won't feel robbed. Again, just another way we put members first, because we don't have shareholders. Join the nation.
Nationwide is on your side.
Hey, guys. Hey, glad y'all made it.
Sorry we're late.
Did you run into traffic?
No, just had to stop by the house to grab a few things. You stopped by the house?
Uh-huh. All right, whenever you get your stuff, run upstairs, get cleaned up for dinner.
You leave the house in good shape?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Last-second field goal.
Yeah, sure you did.
Introducing AT&T Digital Life. Personalized home security and automation with limited availability in select markets.
For as long as there have been engines, there's been a guy under the hood looking for a few more horses. And Valvoline was right there too, creating the next great oil for the next great engine. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the first synthetic blend. We introduced motor oil back in 1866, and we've been reinventing it ever since. Valvoline, 140 years under the hood.
Lessons. Every racetrack is full of them. Each turn a pop quiz. High or low. Give or go. Today's lesson is the edge. And at 200 miles per hour. Class begins.
To win the chase, being perfect isn't good enough. This isn't a contest of one against one. It's a battle of every man for himself. It's 10 grueling weeks on asphalt and concrete. It's heartbreak and madness times 1,000. To win here, you need luck and chaos on your side. Because being perfect only gives you a chance.
Know why with NFL Insiders. Know how with NFL Live. The NFL, weekdays on ESPN. Know better.
Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. Green flag pit stops underway. Matt Kenseth decided to pit sooner than they had planned. 4-tire stop to help his car too loose. He said he couldn't get down on the gas. As you see, many cars are following in pursuit. Let's go to Mike Massaro.
And Kyle Busch, the good news for him is the temperatures have come down significantly since getting the debris off the grill. The problem is he's still a little bit tight and loose off the corner, sliding the nose a little bit as well. 4-tire change, air pressure adjustment on the 18, as they also take Sunoco race fuel. Meanwhile, Martin Truex Jr. has been on the splitter over the course of the last couple of runs. They're going to put a Packer back in the front. They had removed it on the last stop, but did not correct the problem. 4-tire change for Truex. Dave?
Second place, Joey Logano is on pit road. A great run for him. Of course, he gained a spot when Kyle Busch had to get his grill cleaned off. They'll go for a little more adjustment on this run. You see them taking a tear off the windshield. Joey said he can't run on the bottom of the racetrack. Chassis adjustment being made a little bit too loose off turn 4 as well. Mike?
Kurt Busch has been rather frustrated throughout the course of the day. They just can't seem to find the balance on the 78 car. They'll make an air pressure adjustment here, a 4-tire change, but Todd Berrier had sensed this before the race even began. The car just was not reacting the way they had expected throughout the course of the weekend.
Jimmy Johnson going to pit now with 94 laps to go, Doc.
And that calculations mean that Chad Canals can make him pit one more time and one only if they want to. They'll make a chassis adjustment. The last time it helped snug him up a little bit, but it got looser as the run evolved. Right rear chassis change, 4-tire. Whoops, a little trouble with the right front. Now they come around to the left side, going to get jacked up. This will be a lengthy stop for the 5-time champion. 17 seconds for Jimmy Johnson. Wow.
That, combined with the laps he stayed out on the older tires compared to guys like Kenseth, is going to make this interesting when Johnson blends back in to see where this all shakes out.
Hey, he's not even going to keep the lead. It's going to be the 2-car when it all cycles out.
Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Earnhardt Jr., Logano, then Johnson.
Oh, that's cost you quite a few spots. He's got Matt Kenseth right on his bumper now.
Kenseth is now.
Yep. Ryan Newman gives up the lead to pit, so that'll put Keselowski into the lead. And these championship twosomes right back bumper to bumper on the racetrack.
You see, just a slight mistake on the pit stop cost Jimmy quite a bit.
So one mistake by Matt on a pit road speeding penalty. One mistake by the 48 team. Just that little bobble on the right front on that pit stop change. Now let's see what Jimmy can do with having a few lap fresher tires than these other guys he's trying to repass. Look at this. Look at this.
That was close for Logano. I don't think we'll see Jimmy Johnson panic any or anything like that. His car is so fast that before they finish this run, the way that what we've seen, he'll be back to the front of this.
So Matt Kenseth was 9 seconds behind the 48. He was in 5th and Jimmy was leading. Now after the cycle of pit stops, Matt's in 6th, but Jimmy is only in 4th. And Brad Keselowski is the one in control of this race. To show you that extra time that Jimmy spent out there on tires, the difference in pit stops, Keselowski pitted at 2:36, Johnson at 2:40. Brad was 7.5 seconds back of Jimmy. Now he's 2.2 seconds ahead of him. Enter online at ChevyOutdoors.com for a chance to win an all-new 2014 Chevy Silverado. So big swing, a big moment in the race. First time, for about the last 2 hours, Jimmy hasn't been the leader of this thing. But he finds himself back in 4th place. He's only less than 2 seconds behind Brad Keselowski, though. Dale Jr. there, 88. Next in line to pass. Dale Jr. running 3rd. Kyle Busch running 2nd. And Brad Keselowski, the race leader. 88 laps to go in race 8 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
I have a big meeting when we land, but I'm so stuffed up I can't rest.
NyQuil Cold and Flu liquid gels don't unstuff your nose.
They don't?
Alka-Seltzer Plus Night fights your worst cold symptoms, plus has a decongestant.
Oh, what a relief it is.
Coca-Cola Racing Family Road Trip. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. No! Anyone need to go to the bathroom? I do. I am Cokebot. Take me to your 2-liter. Shoot, they don't stick very well.
At Goodyear, we make tires for the world's most demanding drivers. Meticulously crafted to help handle 200-mile-per-hour turns. Always evolving to face the grueling demands of NASCAR. And everything we learn making tires for our most demanding customers inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
Before they earned enough cash back from Bank of America to help pay for Benny's expenses. Before they earned 1% back on all purchases, everywhere, every time. And 2% back at the grocery store. Even before earning 3% back on gas, with no hoops to jump through. They opened a Bank Americard Cash Rewards credit card just in time to open their hearts. That's the magnitude of rewarding connections. Apply online or at a Bank of America near you.
All right, guys, let's huddle up here and talk probiotics. For digestive health? Yes, and did you know that True Biotics is a daily probiotic that helps in 2 ways? It supports digestive and immune health by working in your gut, where 70% of your immune system lives. Try True Biotics today.
Let's move a little bit now. Let's go. Let's go.
Packers, tomorrow 8:25 Eastern on ESPN.
Champions claim their throne. What'll happen this year? Buckle up for the ultimate driver tell-all. NASCARAfterthelap.com.
The AAA Texas 500 at the Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, as we remind you to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. Information you get right now is that Brad Keselowski's leading, but Jimmy Johnson is on the march. Moved up, as you saw during our nonstop, to 2nd place, passing Kyle Busch, and he's 0.8 of a second behind the race leader, Keselowski. Now, he's right about this. Long way to go still. Still over 100 miles left in this one. And if you want to stay ahead of Jimmy Johnson, you better go and go fast.
Yeah, he probably didn't like the sight that he saw when he was looking up in that mirror down the back straightaway.
Yeah, that 48 car is getting bigger and bigger. It won't be long before he'll be getting smaller in the windshield for Brad Keselowski. This 48 really is good. They've made some good adjustments on this car, too, because he just keeps getting better.
Little wiggle on the nose of the 48 there as we look back from the back bumper of Keselowski.
Yeah, you talk about that little wiggle. The thing that I noticed, though, is Jimmy doesn't have to get out of the throttle or anything. He ran the fastest lap on the track that time, even with that little bit of a wiggle.
For the lead. Caution, debris backstretch.
Caution, debris.
There it is.
Yep. Juan Pablo Montoya. One of those tires that was excessively worn and hit that cord. Actually, look at both right side tires on that 42.
Yeah, you can see those cords kind of unwinding on the tread. That's where all this debris is coming from.
I think another big break for Matt Kenseth. I think he needs to work on his race car some, and the green flag pit stop don't really allow you to do some of the things you might want to.
So I did not hear NASCAR call whether Jimmy was the leader over Brad at the moment of caution. You saw him passing. It depends where they were at one of those scoring loops on the track when the yellow flag was triggered. Now getting word that it is Jimmy who is the race leader. So he'll be first down the pit lane. Although it appears Montoya wants to be first down the pit lane. And the leaders will dive around him. 77 to go, Doc.
And Jimmy Johnson just told Chad Canals, if I can roll the center better, I would take it. Otherwise, the car is good. Right side tires, left side tires, minor air pressure, I'm told, and Sunoco fuel. Jamie.
Twice a lap, Matt Kenseth telling his team, I'm wobbly, loose in and off both ends of the racetrack. Help me out here, guys. He'll go back on those adjustments. Mike?
Brad Keselowski saying the entry and the exit is better, but he needs to roll the center still a little bit better than he has been. A 4-tire change there. Meanwhile, just in front of him, Kyle Busch is away. A good stop there for the 18.
Big loser on that round of stops going to be Brad Keselowski in the 2. Look at that, 7 places.
Yeah, they had a disaster on pit road that time.
So we'll follow up on the pit stop for Brad and his team. Jimmy Johnson back in command in Texas.
This guy, new training coach. Got to be closer to the edge, Peyton.
I see that. Don't point at my pizza.
What? Come on. People love pepperoni. Ref?
It's good. Get any large pizza for just $11. Even specialties, like our new Italian meats and 4 cheese pizza. Just $11 for a large.
Better ingredients.
Better pizza.
Papa John's. Let me have a slice of your first Papa John's. Come on. Hold it.
Holding. Here, hold that.
No. No, I want a whole slice.
In NASCAR, there's nothing a fan, team, or driver wants more than to be first. First on the leaderboard, first out of the pits, first to the checkered flag. In the nation, being first is just as important. In Nationwide Insurance, we put members first because we don't have shareholders. It's why the Earnhardt family has trusted Nationwide for more than 35 years.
Nationwide is on your side.
Why is it better to get what you want now instead of later?
Because you don't want to wait to eat your raisins.
You don't want to wait to eat your raisins?
No.
Why not?
Because they'll turn into grapes.
Not sure that's the way it works.
Yes.
Are you competing for cutest kid right now?
Yes.
And what place are you in?
Kindergarten?
That's adorable.
It's not complicated. Now is better, and AT&T is the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network.
So, you want to be eco-friendly?
Of course.
Okay, got corn?
We got that.
Got someone to blend it into fuel?
Got it.
Got a car to use that fuel?
Sure do.
Got a way to recycle?
Yep.
Got trees to offset carbon?
Got that.
Got sun to power the track?
You bet.
Got electric-powered pace cars?
Yep.
So wait a minute. You cut emissions by 20%, you're the largest recycler in sports, and you got a solar-powered track.
Got all that.
All right. Got a cool earthy logo?
Check this out.
Too cool. Better.
I can't believe I got to share the bed with Bill. I'm an all-star.
Why do I have to bunk up? I'm a published author.
I've been on the all-defensive team twice.
I've been on the bestseller list Twice. Hey, you guys asleep? I can't sleep.
ESPN, your NBA destination for games Wednesdays and Fridays.
Under caution still at Texas Motor Speedway after Juan Pablo Montoya shredded a tire and left debris all the way down the backstretch and around turns 3 and 4. Time for unlimited access to the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint Network. 25 lead changes today, but the man who has dominated this race and sounds like is saving fuel at the moment, Jimmy Johnson, out in front for way more laps than anyone else. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Mobile 13 app with the unlimited My Way plan, guaranteed for life and only from Sprint. See sprint.com/speed for details. Check out the laps led. Next highest total to that 182 is 38. Pole sitter Carl Edwards, who's back in the garage with the engine failure. Jimmy's day's not been all smooth. Remember, he got trapped back in traffic by the pit stop. Green flag pit stop at lap 240. That was slow.
Yeah, but he made a nice rebound. His team did. 12.2 that last stop.
Yeah, that's what you like to see from a group that doesn't let that affect them. Things are going to happen. You're going to have things that happen like that. But they got the job done right there when it counted. Need to get him back out first, and did.
Speaking of back out, Jeff Gordon has just come back out from the garage after the crash the 24 car had way back at lap number 73.
We make tires for the world's most demanding drivers. Meticulously crafted to help handle 200-mile-per-hour turns. Always evolving to face the grueling demands of NASCAR. And everything we learn making tires for our most demanding customers inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
This is Pam. Her busy Saturday begins with back pain when...
Hey, Pam, you should take Advil. Why? You could take 4 Advil for all-day relief.
So I should give up my 2 Aleve for more pills with Advil? You're joking, right? For my back pain, I want my Aleve.
Rated teen.
It's all still with me.
PlayStation.
For as long as there have been engines, there's been a guy under the hood, looking for a few more horses. And Valvoline was right there too, creating the next great oil for the next great engine. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the first synthetic blend. We introduced motor oil back in 1866, and we've been reinventing it ever since. Valvoline, 140 years under the hood.
When it comes to trucks, you always hear about brawn, torque, towing capacity, and durability. But around here, everyone wants to know, does it haul? There's nothing worth doing that can't be done in a truck.
We have to be on all the time, so we rely pretty heavily on the coffee cart.
Hey, guys, want some coffee?
I have a double-double. What's a double-double?
It's 2 double espressos.
They're awesome. Kevin makes the best double-double. Yeah, as a matter of fact, can I get another one?
I think maybe you should slow down.
Give me another double-double, Kevin. Kevin, can I get another double-double?
I think you should just get through your show, you know?
It's for my show.
Of course, we do have to be careful that we don't overdo it.
Things are really heating up, shaping up, looking up, going up. Well, up from some teams, down for others. Is getting excited. It's the playoffs. Whoa!
Going racing with 72 laps to go. A quick look at the danger zone brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, which kind of sums up some of the big stories on the day. Kyle Busch with the crash that he's come back from to run second. Jeff Gordon just back into the race, 185 laps down in 42nd place. Pole sitter Carl Edwards out with an engine failure. Jimmy Johnson first, Kyle Busch second, Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth in row 2 as the pace car pulls off.
really be important for Matt Kenseth to stay in touch with Jimmy Johnson as much as he can right here.
It's going to be hard to do the way that 48 car's been today.
I said as much as he can. That's a tall order. And what I was saying is he can't let these cars, when he gets to Kyle Busch there and Logano, if his car is good enough, he needs to go on and get by them to where he can see the 48. We're going to have one more pit stop at some point in time here, at least.
Martin, 14 car, trying to take 11th for Martin Truex.
Now, Mark's had a solid race all day long. He took 2 tires early where we saw him get some track position, and he parlayed that into good track position for the rest of the race.
Yeah, finally a good day for Mark. I think he's probably having fun in that race car day. He hasn't had much of that since coming over here to sub for Tony Stewart.
Started back in 33rd place, and he just took 11th for Martin Truex. Two-tire call Andy mentioned came way back at lap 75. Mark gained 13 positions on that one call, and they held most of it in that next run. Update on the 14 from Jamie.
Well, you know, since he's been filling in for Tony Stewart, Mark Martin told me this car has been a huge adjustment for him. He just hasn't found that comfort that he really needs in that car. But this weekend, it's been a little bit better, but they've been adjusting on it all race long. And as you guys said, he had some strategy early, but they've gone in the right direction. Steve Addington definitely making his driver feel comfortable as he's moved to the top 10.
Jamie, thanks. So there is Mark in the number 11 spot. Jimmy Johnson leading. Joey Logano. We've talked a lot today about Jimmy and Matt and Carl and Kyle Busch and so on, but very solid drive today for Logano in this 22.
Yeah, definitely solid, and I don't think it surprised us as we made the comparison early on that you brought up, Alan, about California and Atlanta with this racing surface being somewhat similar. He had 2 really good runs there at those racetracks. So nice to see him if it wasn't for Jimmy Johnson being just outstanding.
Yeah, Joey's best in class right now.
Yeah.
How about this 22, Dave?
Well, Todd Gordon feels the same way you guys do. He brought up Atlanta, where they finished second, led 78, and also Chicago, where they led 32 before the engine failure. And one more thing, he said, don't forget in April, we were docked some parts and things. They made us change before the race started 18th and drove our way to 5th. So Joey knows how to pass cars here and knows how to go fast.
Yep, and so Logano having a great drive again, running second to Jimmy Johnson, which is nothing to be ashamed of today here in Texas. Somebody else who's having a good run that we haven't touched on much is running up in 6th position now, and that's Casey Kane in the 5 car. Another guy who's had a lot of success on the mile-and-a-half tracks this year, if the fact that he doesn't have the trophies to actually show for it.
One thing I've seen with Casey in the past is that when these races go into the night, that's when he's always the best. So yeah, he still has, well, we got 64 laps to go. He's going the right direction now.
Yeah, he's been the guy that's been behind Matt Kenseth a few times in those mile-and-a-half wins that Matt has had.
4 second-place finishes on the mile-and-a-half tracks this season for Casey Kane. And continuing on this theme of guys that are having good runs, but not up there in the lead and racing for the lead to grab some spotlight on themselves. How about Denny Hamlin in this 11?
Yeah, nice to see Denny rebounding here. He had a couple of top 10 finishes recently. Last week, a good run at Martinsville, but having another solid run, finished second yesterday in the nationwide race. I saw Denny earlier today, and we just kind of congratulated him that. And he finally had a smile on his face, said he's feeling a lot better. He actually was telling me how now that he's getting better, he's getting a better feel for the car, that his back wasn't allowing him to feel what was going on with the car a lot of times. And so it's nice to see that and see him have a good run, get back where he deserves to be.
Coming into the weekend, Denny talked about that, you know, what a strange year it's been when Brian Vickers was substituting for him in the Sprint Cup race earlier this season here in Texas in April when Denny was out injured. And now this weekend he was substituting for Brian Vickers on the nationwide side because Brian was out with that blood clot problem that has him out of the race car for the moment. No problem for the moment for Jimmie Johnson. Just under 100 miles to go in this race, and he's led just about all of the ones that we've run so far.
The road is filled with surprises. Make sure you see them. See farther, wider, better. Upgrade to Silver Star Ultra headlights from Sylvania.
What's that? KFC Go Cup. That looks better than this.
Victor 7, we have a 1031 in progress.
You take this one, kid.
Why settle for an ordinary snack? Try crispy tenders and wedges. Just one of 5 new KFC Go Cups. Only $2.49 each. Today tastes so good.
Before Carolyn Hughes was a peacekeeper in Haiti. Before William Hughes fought in Vietnam. And John Hughes jumped into Normandy. And John Anderson Hughes served in World War I. And before Robert Hughes joined the Spanish-American War, there were families connected to the belief that freedom was worth fighting for. We're proud to help veterans and their families succeed here at home.
The drive to win is for life. And with Sprint, so is unlimited talk, text, and data. Guaranteed. Now only $65 a month with Sprint 1-Up.
These lights alert you to potential trouble. So do these. See farther, wider, better. Upgrade to Silver Star Ultra headlights from Sylvania.
Let's move a little bit now. Let's go.
Packers, tomorrow 8:25 Eastern on ESPN.
Jeff Gordon broke out his dance moves. What'll happen this year? Buckle up for the ultimate driver tell-all. NASCARAfterthelap.com.
Jimmie Johnson leading at Texas Motor Speedway with 55 laps to go. Don't forget tonight on ESPN2 at 11 Eastern Time, NASCAR Now, presented by 5-Hour Energy, wraps up the day. Todd Grisham hosting, and Ricky Craven, our old buddy, is hanging. Well, I shouldn't call him old, but our longtime friend.
I got in trouble for
I know
saying
you
something
did.
like that.
He called Jeff Burton old last week.
Breaking down the action from Texas and looking ahead to Phoenix. That's tonight, ESPN2 at 11 Eastern Time. Sorry, pal. Matt Kenseth in 4th while Jimmie Johnson leads. Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to reclaim a spot there from Kenseth. Let's see if he can make a way around. Leaders all last pitted at lap 257. So somewhere right around, I want to say about 295 or so.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see
what I'm
everybody
looking
on
at.
pit road.
And it's going to be interesting to see if some of them will short pit to try to gain, because they know this is going to the end of the race. They might be able to gain some track position by short pitting.
Yeah.
And some might gamble for that.
Yeah, it's a real gamble, like you said. But, is Kenseth and his team, are they willing to do that? I'm thinking they're probably going to be more along the strategy lines of the 48, because that's who they're racing.
That's exactly what I would be doing. I wouldn't do that. They don't need to take a chance right now. They've got the 48 somewhat in sight. they're within a few spots of each other. And I think they just need to race at the 48 at this point. I wouldn't try to gamble on that.
Yeah, the one thing they can't do is stay out there too long for some of those cars that are behind them that may short pit and jump in front of them and not have enough time then to get back by them.
A lot of decisions for the crew chiefs to make here in this next little bit. Jamie?
Well, right now, the 20's plan is to pit around 3:03, but like you said, they're keeping their eye on that 48, and they'll probably pit when he pits. You see Matt working the wheel. He said, I'm sorry, you guys, this is all I've got. I don't know whether I should ask you to fix the loose or the tight. So car's a bit of a handful right now.
Matt Kenseth working awfully hard inside that race car, steering the wheel, pushing the pedals, flipping switches as he's going in and out of the corner, working those blowers.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can at this point to try to make up the time he can make up on Jimmy. He's not leaving anything.
And he's actually doing as much as he can not to lose another spot, which is a point, basically, to Dale Jr. back there, who'd been coming at him pretty quickly.
Yeah, Jr. came right to the back bumper, but now the last few laps, it looks like Kenseth has found a little something and pulled back away.
So 50 laps to go, less than 100 miles left in this one. Nicole, Rusty, Brad, and Ray down in the Quicken Loans ESPN pit studio watching on and making their own strategy calculations.
Well, I don't think we want to hear strategy from me, but I will turn to the crew chief down the end. Ray, 50 laps to go in this one. What do you do if you're one of these contenders?
Well, if I'm Matt Kenseth, I am going to watch what Jimmy Johnson does. And the big thing, Jimmy Johnson's in the catbird seat right now because he's got almost a 4-second lead on Matt Kenseth. And if Matt waits too long to pit, like Dale Jarrett says, too many other cars could get in between he and Jimmy and cost him more points. If he pits too early and the caution comes out, he's off cycle with Jimmy and does not really have enough time to make it up. So right now, he's going to have to be really careful, and I would have to play it safe if I was in Jason Ratcliffe's seat right now. Just play it safe, get the best finish I could out of my car.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You just got to, I mean, I think Jason's got to do what the 48 guys are going to do. They got to race each other. There's no doubt about that. I'm doing some calculations down here, and it kind of varies a little bit. It depends on, I mean, they can go 55 laps in fuel like I mentioned earlier. But if they short stop still, I'm thinking around 30 laps to go, 30 to 35 laps to come down pit road, put 4 good years on, and just get after and drive their brains out. They can't stay out there too long if guys start pitting and lose that track position again. I agree with Ray, all the guys in the booth. This race is pretty straightforward right now. Not a lot of strategy that's left to do.
Yeah, the 48's really setting the pace, and absolutely 20 car has to mirror whatever the 48 does. One word's needed, gentlemen, as we get down here close. We need a caution so we can bunch this field up and watch these guys go racing.
You want to create controversy, man.
Why not?
Back that 48 up front. What's going on?
Well, Jimmy complaining just a moment ago, the car is starting to get free now, entering turn 3, and the spotter came on and said the wind is really picking up. That's probably hurting your entry in 3. Jimmy said it's rolling the center better, and Chad Canals came back and said, Jimmy, keep saving your stuff. Got to save your stuff, so I guess they're saving a little bit for now. They still got to make one more stop. Maybe.
All right, Doc, thanks. So Jimmy out in front of Joey Logano by 3.1 seconds, Kyle Busch by 3.9 seconds, and Matt Kenseth has slipped a little bit in this last 10 laps or so, and he now finds himself 4.7 seconds behind Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, just listening to what Doc said about what Chad's telling Jimmy, you save your stuff. I think what he's saying is we got a really fast race car. Don't run the tires off of it here. Use the speed that we have to try to, you know, just save what you've got. Make sure we don't have a tire problem. When you see that happen to other cars, you worry about it happening to yours. And that's really the only thing that can derail them tonight, looks like.
Yeah, and one thing that he may be, why he'd gotten looser into 3s, they were talking about, why would he be getting looser into 3? Well, the wind is blowing down the back straightaway. The wind has picked up as we look at the flag. So that means he's probably carrying a little bit more speed than what he was down there if he's backing off the same place, which could create a loose situation.
Now, just one other thing to remind you of, and we talked about it before the engines were fired today. On these mile-and-a-half tracks this season, the leader entering the final pit stop has lost way more times than he's won.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about this one. I'm sure Chad and Jimmy don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And we're not in Kansas anymore, so that's the only place that it really happened that the leader held serve.
So dominant today has been Jimmy Johnson.
You see 160 miles an hour right through the middle of the corner. Now it's down the back straightaway where we're just talking about that wind. You see Jimmy, it looks like he's not even full throttle, like he's working the throttle, but it's still over 190 miles an hour on that entry.
Yeah, that's not even the fastest part. Even with the wind blowing, it's usually not even the fastest part of the racetrack.
Yeah, typically you'd see 7-8 miles an hour difference between the front and the back. With that tailwind down the back straightaway, you're not seeing much difference at all.
Just 3 miles an hour. Now, in the last set of green flag pit stops, Martin Truex was the first one to make the move to pit road. Truex was just on and off the pit lane, so we expect to see just about everybody heading in just a little while. If and when it happens, you'll see it as we go NASCAR nonstop, presented by Mobil 1. Jimmy Johnson leading 41 laps to go.
Now get $100 off Droid Ultra or Droid Max by Motorola.
At Goodyear, we make tires for the world's most demanding drivers. Meticulously crafted to help handle 200-mile-per-hour turns. Always evolving to face the grueling demands of NASCAR. And everything we learn making tires for our most demanding customers inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
In NASCAR, there's nothing a fan, team, or driver wants more than to be first. First on the leaderboard, first out of the pits, first to the checkered flag. In the nation, being first is just as important. At Nationwide Insurance, we put members first because we don't have shareholders. It's why the Earnhardt family has trusted Nationwide for more than 35 years.
Nationwide is on your side.
Our goal is to win the championship.
I want to be the best. And I'm going to die trying.
Bulls Pacers at 7 Eastern. Mavs Thunder at 9:30. Wednesday on ESPN.
Back at the Texas Motor Speedway, green flag pit stops underway. Brad Keselowski on pit road. The car a little bit tight. They'll make a chassis adjustment and a 4-tire change. A good rebound from a poor stop the last time down pit road. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch on his way to make his stop as well. He's been rather happy with the car over the last run. A 4-tire change expected here, as it has been the case throughout the course of the afternoon. Team's done on the right side. They go to the left side and make a chassis adjustment. Doc?
Jimmy Johnson saying the car getting freer and freer, special entry of 3. Will this be a good pit stop with the lug nut issue right front? Right side tires going on. No lug nut problem. Left side tires going on. Gonna get it full of Sunoco fuel. Left front off. Left rear off. Lug nuts on. Jimmy Johnson down and away. 13 seconds. Jamie.
8th pit stop of the day for these guys. Matt Kenseth saying loose in, loose off, tight in the middle. I don't know what to tell you to adjust for. It's an air pressure adjustment in the right rear and 4 tires. Dave?
Second place, Joey Logano brings it down pit road for 4 tires and fuel. Just a slight air pressure adjustment. A little bit loose in and off, a little bit tight in the center, but the center came to him as that run went on.
Kyle Busch speeding on pit road. He'll be coming back for a pass-through penalty. What a stop by Matt Kenseth's team.
Yeah,
under 12 seconds.
Yeah, sub 12 seconds. That was a good stop.
So waiting for the cars to cycle around and check the time intervals between Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth and the others.
I think Junior might end up in 2nd place, actually.
Yep.
that's certainly going to help Matt Kenseth with Kyle Busch issue and have to give up that spot.
So Kyle Busch comes in for his pass-through penalty here. That will move Matt Kenseth up to 4th position. So it's Johnson, Earnhardt Jr., Logano, Kenseth, and Harvick. And Kyle Busch was 4th pre-pit stop. Now the pass-through penalty is going to drop him back probably to about 15th. So the net gain for Jimmy Johnson versus Matt Kenseth on the pit stop, it's pretty well a wash. Matt was 6.6 seconds behind Jimmy. Now he's an even 6 seconds behind. So even though the crew had a faster pit stop time, Jimmy was able to make it up either on the in and out laps or just on the flat out speed of his car.
Well, Jimmy's crew had a good stop also, just a little bit slower than the 20. Matt's car's been pretty quick here on these new tires the last few laps.
Yeah, it was a quick stop. Was it too quick, Jamie?
It was very quick. Matt just came on the radio and said, I have a little bit of a vibration, but it's only down the front stretch, so I'm hoping it's the wheel weight, but they're definitely going to listen to him and watch for it.
Yeah, that's always, you know, in the back of your mind, you have a really quick stop like that, and then you hear a vibration. It makes you think about it.
See, Matt reached 195 miles an hour down into turn 3 that time. Fresh tires make a huge difference, as we watched earlier with Jimmy going 190.
About the same on both straightaways there for Matt. About a second difference between the two pit stops.
And Matt's been faster than Jimmy each of these laps that they've been back out there running, but I have a good idea that Jimmy Johnson is just taking good care of a fast race car.
And why not?
Nice to have that luxury.
Yeah. Now we're inside the final 50 miles of a 500-mile race. Jimmy Johnson, out of 306 laps that have been run today, has led 227. The next highest laps led, 38. Two drivers have led lap totals in the 30s. Carl Edwards 38, Brad Keselowski 30. Then Matt Kenseth has led the 4th most laps today. He's led 3. Dominant for Jimmy Johnson today at Texas, but still 27 long laps between now and the checkered flag.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Texas is brought to you by the 2013 Ford F-150 with EcoBoost. Mobil 1, the world's leading synthetic motor oil brand, Mobil 1. And Nationwide Insurance. Nationwide is on your side.
New training coach. Got to be closer to the edge, Peyton.
I see that. Don't point at my pizza.
What? Come on. People love pepperoni. Ref?
It's good. Get any large pizza for just $11, even specialties, like our new Italian meats and 4 cheese pizza. Just $11 for a large.
Better ingredients.
Better pizza.
Papa John's. Let me have a slice of your first Papa John's. Come on. Hold it.
Holding.
Would rather play computer games than go camping. And a valley. And a river. And the stars. And a new convert. The all-new Chevy Silverado, from one generation to the next. Strong for all the roads ahead.
See you in the morning, my friend. Bright and early.
Why is it better to get what you want now instead of later?
Because you don't want to wait to eat your raisins.
You don't want to wait to eat your raisins?
No.
Why not?
Because they'll turn into grapes?
Not sure that's the way it works.
Yes.
Are you competing for cutest kid right now?
Yes.
And what place are you in?
Kindergarten?
That's adorable.
It's not complicated. Now is better. And AT&T is the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.
This week's installment of 30 for 30 tells the story of two men from New York with vastly different backgrounds and seemingly nothing in common except the game of basketball. Yet as teammates for the Tennessee Volunteers in the 1970s, Ernie Grunfeld and Bernard King forged a very close friendship that's lasted for 4 decades. 30 for 30, Bernie and Ernie, presented by Buick, Tuesday at 8 on ESPN and live on Watch ESPN. Down to the final 21 laps. Make it 20. As Jimmy Johnson continues to lead here at Texas Motor Speedway. We look down from our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear today. Everything we learn making tires that face the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. So you've had a car this dominant, you've led this much, and the championship, every point is so precious. You get down to these late laps, and I'll bet you start to hear and feel a lot of things behind the wheel of that car.
I promise you, yes. Yeah, it's very unsettling because you just spend such a perfect day, you're just wondering what it is. And not that Matt's day's been perfect.
Yeah, I was kind of talking about Jimmy Johnson because we caught a little piece on his radio a second ago.
That's gone away now. A little bit of a vibration that's intermittent. That's coming to the drive shaft. I think what it is.
It's amazing how your sense of feel becomes so much greater whenever you've in this situation, less than 20 to go. And you've had the dominant car. You know that the victory is yours if nothing happens here.
I think it's kind of ironic that we've actually heard from both Matt Kenseth and Jimmy Johnson. They have a vibration.
One of the things we talked about in this race was the strains, the demands of the speed on these cars as the sun goes down and the track temperature continues to cool. And add to that the long, difficult race. It's already put a good load of punishment on these race cars. The high speeds here in Texas, particularly when the cars are on fresh tires.
Yeah, and it's not like you could just ease up right now and fix that issue, because if something has happened, you've created it up to this point. But Jimmy Johnson, I think, has done a fantastic job of taking care of his car, the tires, managing this entire race so far today.
You see these laps winding down, getting under 20 laps to go. The crew chief's still up on the box thinking about, okay, what can happen here that's going to keep us from winning? And they're planning on the caution coming out, if not this lap, the next lap, and what they're going to do with that pit stop and with that set of tires and what kind of adjustment. You know, that even though you see Chad Knaus there with a 4.2 or 4.9 or a 3.9 second lead, he's still thinking about what to do.
And in his pit box and still thinking for us is Dr. Jerry Punch.
And I spoke with Chad Knaus this morning and asked him about what happened late in Kansas, folks. A mile-and-a-half racetrack. Jimmy Johnson had a real good race car. And Jimmy had said late, hey, I think I'm feeling a vibration. And then with about 8 or 9 laps to go, Jimmy said the engine is going away. And he somehow milked it to finish at Kansas. He said that's a memory we don't want to relive today. But it gets cooler, and this track really, really tough on engines. And I think the temperature now has probably dropped 15 degrees here in the last 45 minutes. Jimmy probably a little bit concerned about what he's feeling.
The one thing in his favor is this track gives up a lot of speed as the tires wear out, and where Kansas just kept it all the way through. The average speed there was so much higher than average RPM. So, you know, like I said, the RPMs do come down through the run.
Yeah, the other side of that is Kansas 400-mile race. This is 500 long, tough miles here.
car. I know you've had cars like this, the both of you in your careers. Andy, you've fielded them, and DJ, you've driven them, that have been so good. And in this case, at such a clutch time in this championship.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing is, this team has, had opportunities to maybe fall behind a little bit, but, and there was a stretch there in the summer that we said, oh my gosh, they couldn't do anything. 1.5 mile, 2 mile tracks, they were just really struggling, but just shows they've kind of gotten better and better throughout this chase and what we've come to expect from them.
Yeah, but I promise you, this is the most tense part for the crew chief. It can't, you're sitting up there, it can't be this easy, right? I mean, if something's going to happen, it's going to make this hard.
Yeah.
Because we've had a dominant car all day, and there's no way it's going to run out these last 12 laps without something.
So big stories on this day where the championship is concerned. Jeff Gordon, after racing his way back into the conversation with his win at Martinsville last Sunday, slapping the wall after the left front tire went down in his car back at lap 73. Gordon right now 187 laps down in 40th place. Matt Kenseth with a pit road speeding penalty on a green flag stop back at lap 173. His pass-through penalty sent him 27 seconds behind race leader Jimmie Johnson from 2nd to 16th. He got a caution flag about 20 laps later that allowed him to catch up a lot of the distance he was behind, but not make up a lot of the track position that he was behind. Matt then worked his way through and is running in the top 5, but as you see, is running 6.5 seconds behind Jimmie Johnson in 4th place with 9 laps to go.
He's pushing pretty hard right now. I saw him get a little bit sideways that last lap.
Yeah, but if they can come out of here just 7 back whenever the 48 has had one of their dominant days and you had a mistake and things didn't go exactly your way and only be 7 back with 2 to go, I think the 20 and Matt Kenseth, they'll take that. Go race them at Phoenix and know that they've got 2 races to get the job done.
And a story on Jimmie Johnson today. The beginning of the race, Carl Edwards would get the lead off of pit stops when he had that first pit stall by winning the pole. He'd lead about 10 to 12 laps. Jimmie would go by him and check out every time. Well, Carl's in the garage area now with engine failure, and Jimmie has continued to log laps in the #1 spot in this race. Not an unfamiliar story here in Texas in recent history. On pace to have the 2nd most dominant win ever here at Texas to Tony Stewart, who led 278 laps in winning this race in November of 2006. Conversation line coming into the weekend, how Joe Gibbs Racing's been dominant where scoring wins on the 1.5 tracks this season is concerned, and Hendrick Motorsports has been 0 on the 1.5 so far.
Yeah, you had to kind of know that the law of average is going to catch up. Not that this is over. Still have some laps to go, but they'd put themselves in a position to break that streak.
And I keep coming back to the story about the championship and these 2 guys and how fun it is to see these 2 drivers who are both guys. They're just nice guys. They're guys you enjoy talking to. They're guys you feel good about pointing your kids to and saying, hey, it's okay to cheer for them. They're really guys you can look up to. But I know as someone who's competed against them, you got this smirk on your face right now, DJ. You know that when the helmet goes on, it might get a little different.
Now, I agree with you there. But I'm smiling because it makes me proud to be a part of this sport and know that we have 2 guys that don't have to go raising their hands up and announcing to everyone how good they are. They let their talents show what they're capable of. They don't have to tell everybody, hey, I'm great. And then this day and time of things that happen in professional sports, I think it's very refreshing that we have 2 drivers right here that let their talents do the talking. And I really like it. Just what you're pointing out. Yeah, you can tell your kids, right here are role models if you want that. They work hard, they get the job done.
Three laps to go. For the man that there is no question, especially in the era of the chase version of determining the champion, is Mr. October and Mr. November in NASCAR racing.
That's what champions do. They rise to the occasion, whatever the format may be. You know, whether it's baseball changing to a certain number of teams in the playoffs, NFL doing the same thing. They went to this chase. Then Jimmy and Chad, they figured out the way of how they wanted to be ready for the chase and the racetracks that are involved in the chasing area. And
I like what it does to the intensity level. You can just visibly see the intensity of these championship quality drivers come up another notch when you get into these last 10.
Still a 3.9-second lead on Dale Earnhardt Jr. for Jimmy Johnson. Now just 2 laps to go.
Yeah, another great run by Junior and his race team. Very impressive here today.
Going to be a somewhat distant second if things hold up, but still solid.
Yeah, solid, and it's good for Jimmy Johnson to have a teammate capable of running that well, too, that is separating Matt Kenseth from him by another spot, which is a point which could be huge as we approach Homestead.
Kenseth does not appear to be in position to gain any spots without anybody having a failure in front of him, nor is he going to lose any unless he has a failure in this last lap. White flag is up. Final lap for Jimmy Johnson at Texas.
Looks like it is going to be about that easy for Chad Canals and Jimmy Johnson. A very dominating performance so far today.
Matt Kenseth is going to finish 4th. Jimmy Johnson is going to lead 255 of 334 laps. Outstanding indeed. The winner at Texas, Jimmy Johnson. For Jimmy Johnson, career win number 66. His 6th win of this season, 2nd most to Matt Kenseth. If this thing should come down to a tiebreaker, it's getting closer there. And the championship gap between the top 2 UCs, 7 points, headed to the 2nd to last race of the season next Sunday in Phoenix.
Great work, everybody. Thank you for all the effort. Everybody, great work. Everybody back in Charlotte that gave us the opportunity to get back out here and do that testing. Picture guys, all your hard work, everybody. Good work.
And that's when it has to really feel even more special.
That's pretty nice.
Test to go do something, and you come back with a dominating performance like this as a crew chief.
And it works. Yes, like you say, you save the test, you're playing, you set early. It works. You get this win, but he knows that there's still a lot of work left to do. You got 2 more hard races to go to beat Matt Kenseth for the championship.
I'll spell your name doing that.
Well, he's had enough practice if he was going to learn how. Not underplay the role of the competitive owners in this one too. Rick Hendrick against Joe Gibbs. Those are a couple of guys who enjoy winning.
They do that. And the ironic thing is it was Rick Hendrick that talked Joe Gibbs into becoming an owner in the sport, and actually that first year bought all of the stuff from Rick Hendrick to get started.
Well, he managed the tires well during the course of the race. He might have abused them there just a little bit.
Take your time. You got plenty of fuel this time.
Our Goodyear Superior performer, Jimmy Johnson. Look at that. 255 laps led. 24th win in the chase. Mr. October, November indeed. He's won 24% of all the races in the chase. Matt Kenseth finishes 4th today, Jamie.
Well, he's 7 points back in the championship. Matt, something we don't see happen by you too often. That was a pit road speeding penalty. How were you able to regroup and fight your way back to finish 4th?
Yeah, we were just being too aggressive. Honestly, 48 had us from the time they loaded till the time they put it back in the truck. They were just dominant all weekend. So Jason and his whole Home Depot crew did a great job today of making adjustments, trying to get it better. You know, that speeding penalty got us behind. We definitely didn't need that, but really, I don't know at the end of the day if it really affected our finish much. Just didn't have what we needed to get any farther forward.
What are your thoughts moving on to Phoenix short track racing next week?
Well, man, I thought overall tonight was a pretty good night. If I would have messed up, maybe we could have ran second. You know, so just go there and hope we got the car to win, and go there and just be aggressive, race hard, and hope we get the finish.
It was a long night, but they fought back to finish fourth, Alan.
Perseverance and a pretty good race car. But as Matt said, just overmatched on this day, as everyone else was, by Jimmie Johnson. Their team, 7 points. The gap now as we head to Phoenix next Sunday.
Okay, no more talk about how many other drivers may be involved in the championship. Yeah. It's officially a two-man battle.
Yeah, 7 points is manageable for Matt Kenseth, but it's going to be tough going against Jimmie Johnson. He's peaking at the right time for sure.
Those final 2 races of this season are next Sunday, Phoenix International Raceway, and Homestead Miami Speedway in 2 weeks for the championship weekend. I hear the grandstand is sold out at Phoenix, but they've got that great big hillside. That's a great place to watch the race. Join us at the track, NASCAR.com/tickets, or the number at the bottom of the screen. While we wait for the winner, let's talk to the driver who finished runner-up. Mike?
Yeah, another great run for Dale Earnhardt Jr. The 3rd time in the last 6 weeks you've been the runner-up. You guys are getting real close.
That's right. We're getting close. I got to give Steve Letarte a lot of credit. I want to thank Amp Energy Gold, National Guard, all our sponsors, Time Warner Cable. But the team's done a good job. We came here and tested, so we thought we'd have a good chance of winning here. Obviously, our teammate was here testing too, so it paid off for him. But congratulations to Jimmy. And we've been working really hard, and Steve's done a great job. It's paying off. We're getting close.
What was the day like? It didn't seem like you had the greatest car at the beginning of the night, but things ended out pretty strong.
Yeah, Saturday morning in the first race during practice, we were struggling, and we got a little bit better and a little bit better, and then we worked on it last night in the bus studying, and then when the race started, it wasn't that great. It was okay, but we dialed it in, and I think the track was kind of coming to us as it got dark here. That's about the way that this was the conditions when we tested. So just Steve doing a good job dialing the car in. He's giving me good cars every week, and I'm driving them all right. So just keep them. I'm just staying out of trouble.
Great run today.
Thanks.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. second. Jamie.
Joey Logano brings it home 3rd tonight. Last night you said that your teammate was much better. You end up on top of the 2 of you, but take us through your night overall. It was a long 500 miles.
It always is here at Texas, and this AAA Fusion was it was pretty good. The car had some good speed in it, and I felt like it's a 2nd place car. We lost a little bit of track position on the last stop. The 88 pitted a little bit before us, and I think that's 2 laps he's out there. It's a couple seconds quicker or so, and he was able to get in front of me, and I was trying to catch him. I was trying so hard, and I just burnt the front tires off, and that was the end of that. But the fastest car definitely won the race. I promise you that. He's so fast. It's unbelievable. Every time I restarted behind him, I was like, geez, I don't know how we're going to keep up with him, because my car's driving good and he's going faster. So we got a little bit of work to do with these things, but overall it's a solid day. What we need right now in the chase to get ourselves a little closer up in points. I don't know where we're at now, but I'm sure we gained a couple spots. So good day. We got to do this 2 more races.
3rd is the best finish for Joey Logano at Texas, Alan.
He did gain a couple of spots, Jamie. Joey up to the 9th position in the standings after this one. You know, Jimmie Johnson, it's not been long since he's been to victory lane here. He won this race a year ago. But in trying to limp that car back to the winner's circle, he went the wrong way.
I'll give him that mistake.
Well, he's made it there now and is in victory lane, ready to celebrate.
Jimmie Johnson picking up his 6th win of the year, maybe going 1 step closer to that coveted 6th title. Hey, Jimmy, we ran out of adjectives to describe what was happening today. Incredible, spectacular, impressive. How would you describe this day and this car you drove?
It was all of that. You know, we came here and tested, did an awesome job understanding what I needed in the car and what was going to create speed. And we came back and had a very smooth qualifying session, practice sessions yesterday, and just kept putting more and more speed in the car, and it paid off today. And obviously, we need a lot of speed in the car, and you got to win to get any points. Matt's in there in the top 5, so nice to get a few points on him. But just a dominant day for this Lowe's team. Can't thank everybody at Hendrick Motorsports enough for their hard efforts. Great car, great engine, pit stops across the board. Chevy was fast, and I know there's a lot of Lowe's employees right now watching that are excited and cheering, so thank you. Thank you to all the 48 fans. And hopefully my wife gets here pretty soon with my 2 little ones. I can't wait to see them.
She's on her way, and while she's on her way, let's talk a little more. If this were a heavyweight fight, now you didn't knock out the competition, but you certainly staggered them today. And now with 2 rounds left, how confident are you that this is your championship to win?
It's, I've been watching a lot of MMA fighting lately, and you'll fall into a rhythm and think that somebody's got to fight one, and it doesn't end that way. And that's how this is going to be. I mean, Matt didn't have maybe the best day, still finished 4th or 5th. This thing is going to go to the last lap at Homestead, and it's going to come down to mistakes. But I'm very excited about our performance and what we did here. We'll enjoy this, but there's still 2 weeks of very hard racing left ahead for us.
You have a 7-point lead today on Matt Kenseth. A year ago, you left here with a 7-point lead on Brad Keselowski. When you think about that, what do you think?
I hope history doesn't repeat itself. And that's the perfect example that this thing isn't over until it's over. Last year we had 8 great races and 2 bad ones and didn't get the championship. So very important to finish strong, and there's 2 very important races left.
Hey, congratulations. Well done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jimmie Johnson, 6th win of the year. He celebrates with a dominating performance here today, Alan, in Victory Lane at Texas.
Yeah, Doc, I agree with your question to Jimmy. You just started out by saying we'd about run out of descriptives for the kind of performance we saw from that 48 team today. I'll ask you both for a thought on today and a thought looking ahead to next week at Phoenix.
Well, I think a great performance by Jimmie Johnson and the race team. But as he just pointed out there, it's way far from being over. There's way too much racing to do, and he knows the caliber of driver that he's up against in Matt Kenseth. And as he said, it's going to come down to the last lap. This is going to be fun for us to watch these next 2 weeks.
It has been fun. It's not really, you can't predict it. I thought that Jimmie Johnson would dominate last week and get the most points at Martinsville, and looked like Matt Kenseth turned the tables on him there. I actually thought that Matt would be the best car here because he has been so strong on the 1.5 miles. But Jimmie Johnson turned that over, so you just don't know what to expect when they do get to these next 2, but it's going to be fun.
Was Jimmy talking about likening this to an MMA? Well, it's a cage match, except they're in roll cages inside their race cars, but trading blows at 100-something miles an hour. So Jimmie Johnson with a dominant win today here at Texas and takes over the lead in the championship. And now, Nicole, just 2 races to go.
2 races to go, and a lot of confidence from that guy right there. With good reason. When you dominate a race like Jimmie Johnson did today, tends to do that to a team, but you like his mojo going forward.
I do like his mojo going forward. We talked about him in our pre-race show and NASCAR Countdown about how we graded everybody. We gave him good grades. He mentioned that he tested here in Texas. The testing really played off for him big time. Now we found out he has tested at Homestead also. He feels really prepared going into it.
I'll tell you, I was impressed with the power and performance of that race car. I mean, he ran a 31 flat basically the last lap. He was pulling away from people on restarts. Incredible drive off in that race car. Very well prepared race car, great race car driver. Tough combination.
Yeah, nothing he couldn't do today.
No, he definitely had a good car, a dominant car. But as he said, it's going to come down to mistakes. We look at what happened with Matt Kenseth, and I can't help but think as that car got back in traffic, did he have to use it up to go forward? Could he not give Jason Ratcliffe the right information to adjust that thing? Did it get just a little bit of? This is so close. It is definitely.
Yeah, he's not far off.
And pit road, my goodness,
That's
how
right.
important was pit road today?
That's huge.
And when I think of Phoenix, the next race, I really think about Matt Kenseth. He's a great short track racer. I think that's right in his wheelhouse. It's a fairly new racetrack for both of these drivers, but Matt looks good on a track like that.
Something you said earlier, Ray, was that Jason Ratcliffe and Matt Kenseth, who this season have been to victory lane 7 times, they had a certain amount of magic to them. Do you still see that magic in them the past couple of weeks?
I do see the magic, but this is where we might be seeing that lack of experience under the gun, so to speak, and the pressure, high pressure, when a guy like Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus, the 48 put that pressure on you. We saw that mistake today on pit road. So I see the magic, like what I see, but we might have seen a result of a little bit of pressure today.
Well, they had what would be considered a bad day for the 2 cars that are really in the championship hunt right now, but they still finished 4th. They're not that far off. We go to Phoenix next week. Matt Kenseth, Jason Ratcliffe really turn it up and be right back in this thing.
I like what Ray just said about the pressure. We talked about that earlier in our show, about that doggone 48 car. When it gets right down to it, they have the ability to put pressure on somebody and handle the pressure themselves if it comes back their way. And here we are, 2 races to go. Johnson's got the lead, and he's putting the pressure on him.
Same thing as last year, though.
Yeah.
Johnson first on this one. Let's talk to more of the top 5 finishers. Mike Massaro.
And that's Casey Kane, who comes home with the 5th place finish. A very strong run for you. 1.5 miles continue to be a strong point for you.
Yeah, we had a pretty good time wearing a cable Chevy. We
7th to 10th most of the race, worked our way to 5th there at the end, and just not quite as good as what Jimmy and Dale was. I know if Jeff was out there, he'd have been fast as well. The Hendrick cars were good today, so I was, congrats to them, and I'm glad we were able to have kind of a flawless race and just race all day, make a little bit of ground at the end.
You talk about that ground you made up at the end. One thing I noticed over the last hour or so of this race, the temperatures plummeted. How much did the track change and come to you?
It actually changed a good bit. We got a little bit more rear grip, so we had to touch the wedge out that final stop, and that helped the front tires. And so it did change. I think it helped us a little bit with battling our front end the whole night, but it was still a good race, and it feels good to get a solid finish and kind of be in the hunt tonight.
Very strong finish for you.
Thank you.
A great finish and a great night overall for the most part for Hendrick Motorsports, and with the guy who has put together the organization. Here's Doc Punch.
Yeah, Rick, all smiles here. 3 cars in the top 5, and you look good in the cowboy hat, by the way, Rick. Now, tell me what was going through your mind. You said you heard Jimmy Johnson with 15 laps to go say, I got a vibration. It's kind of getting worse. It's hit and miss.
I don't know. I was starting walking toward the porta-john. I think, oh, man, you know, we've had it happen here, you know, with just a few laps to go. And a couple of races this year, but all the cars ran good. Jimmy was just so strong all night, and you know, it felt like that last 30 was unbelievable. But I asked him, when you have vibration, please don't say anything on the radio anymore. Now I would tend to go.
Now, do you have a sense you've got a 7-point lead, a little bit of a cushion? Do you have a sense that this is yours? This is the 6th championship? What do you think in these last 2 races?
Absolutely not. We were like this last year going to Phoenix. Anything can happen. You know, we're not going to know how this thing's going to end till the last lap at Homestead. It's so tight. You know, that's such a good team. Matt's such a great driver. You know, anything can happen. It happened to us at Phoenix last year. So, oh.
Yeah, gunfire in the background.
Okay, I'm too old for that, but you know, it's not going to be over to Homestead, so the last lap. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing. All the cars are running great. You know, hated for Jeff, but that Lowe's Chevrolet was on the money tonight.
Thank you very much. Rick Hendrick going to celebrate here in Victory Lane. His driver, a winner at Texas. Alan.
Rick probably wants to get away from there because his back was turned to where Jimmy was doing the Texas 6-shooter celebration. Track president Eddie Gossage there on the left in the sport coat, the Charlie one-horse hats, and now the trophy. They do it up big here at this racetrack. Back downstairs, Dave.
Once again, Brad Keselowski, the best non-chaser, finishing 6th today. Brad, it was only scraps left by Jimmy, and you got a few of them leading 30 laps. Can you describe your day?
Yeah, we had an okay day. You know, thought we had decent speed at times, and then, you know, we were leading at that one point, and then a yellow flag came, and we pitted and came out 9th. That kind of ended our shot of being able to derail Jimmy, if there even was one. I mean, his car was, you know, so much faster than the field. It was pretty embarrassing, to be quite honest, but you know, that's the way it goes, and we'll work and try to get better.
Did you have to be tentative at all, knowing that there were some tire issues by some teams?
No, I didn't really see any with my team, so I was full-blown the whole race. So I thought Goodyear brought a really good tire for you.
6th place for Brad today.
So Brad Keselowski, after starting on the front row, will leave Texas disappointed. And as you could hear in a lot of these post-race interviews, everyone not named Jimmy Johnson or a part of his team is going to leave here disappointed. It was a dominant day for Jimmy Johnson. He really put a hurting on the field.
As a grown...
This is the Sprint Cup. This cup, it isn't just a trophy. It's justification for years of sacrifice. Validation for a life spent on the road, on the wrench, behind the wheel. Only 9 have been won, and only 4 men have won it. Who's next?
Well, a family celebration in Victory Lane at Texas Motor Speedway today. And who's next is indeed the question as we move on to the final 2 races of the season next Sunday at Phoenix. And 2 weeks from today at Homestead Miami Speedway. You know, it's hard to figure out what to predict and project for Phoenix because when they reconstructed the track in the last couple of years, it really is a whole new place. and a lot of what went on before doesn't necessarily apply.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what went on back earlier this year is going to apply much, because they've done so much with this Gen 6 car that things have evolved, and these two race teams are better race teams than what they were. So I say throw it all out. I can assure you, if nothing goes wrong, they're both going to be in the top 5 out there. It's just a matter of which one of them hits it right for that day.
Yeah, you're talking about predictions. That was what I would predict. I know they're going to run up front. That track is tough out there. It's tough on tires, and we talked about mistakes or something like that could make the difference in this chase. We saw Jimmy Johnson go out there last year and have a problem with the right front tire, pushing a little bit hard on that. So it's one of those tracks that people worry about a little bit.
Dale, you've talked about as the number of races runs out, the pressure on these drivers still involved in this championship builds. You've lived through it before. Andy, you've lived through it before. How does it affect the participants involved leaving here today?
Yeah, you do your best to deflect a lot of that and tell everyone that it's not, but inside it's building, because you realize this is an opportunity. This is a year's worth of work that you've put forth with your race team to get yourself in this position. You don't want to make that mistake. You want to do your job perfectly to make sure you give yourself and your team that opportunity.
Yeah, it's even difficult. I mean, you see them smiling. It's even difficult to celebrate these wins knowing you have such a big job ahead of you for 2 more weeks. This is not going to be easy. They won one round right here. They still got 2 big ones left.
And for a lot of these teams, the thoughts about Phoenix don't even go back home, because they'll swap out the transporter equipment here in the garage at Texas and send the truck right on to Phoenix from here. 2 championships to follow next weekend. The Nationwide Series so close there, 3:30 Eastern Saturday on ESPN2. And race 9 in the chase, presented by Quicken Loans, ESPN 2 Eastern Time next Sunday. Sports Center is next, presented by Verizon. Jimmy Johnson, the Texas winner. Oh, we're green at Texas.
2 liter, 48.
Every great script has a formula.
Here he goes.
This one, it's a blockbuster.
Jeff Gordon has hit the wall. Pit road speeding, Matt Kenseth. Dominant. Dominant. Jimmy Johnson is going to lead 255 of 334 laps.